Welcome back, Crime Spies, to the road to 500 subscribers. Day 3. We had a little bit of internet disconnection issue, so I thought it best to cut the first live stream and just shut everything down and turn everything back up. Sometimes these really long live streams, I know with my MacBook, like the system with all the streaming stuff just gets overwhelmed. Usually that doesn't happen with this new computer, but I have noticed at the top of some hours the connection gets a little wonky. So where we're at, we are right before their lunch break today, day 2 of the Brice Rhodes trial. So let's just continue because we still have 5.5 hours. Well, not really with a break, probably 4 hours left. And we are at 1.25 times speed. So thank you for joining me.
But I was concerned because
we were at the 2:32 mark
he had made
when we had our interruption.
I'm going to object. This is all speculation.
Just stick.
That's fine.
Just stick to
For joining me.
without speculating. What happened next?
I had to drop TJ off at a tire shop. I had to physically ask him to walk into a tire shop for his safety.
And did you continue following the defendant at that point? Did you involve other cars?
I did.
Okay. And were you present when he was arrested?
I was.
Okay. Can you describe what happened there?
We alerted other members of the homicide unit, and we made contact with the defendant at the speedway, I believe it was. But it's pretty close. It's on Preston Highway, pretty close to the Indian Trail, the intersection.
Did you go back and pick up TJ?
I did.
Okay. Were you also involved in a situation with the victim's phone?
I was.
Can you describe that to the jury?
As a matter of my tour of duty that day, and I don't recall the day that was, but it wasn't the same day as what we were speaking about. I was alerted that the U.S. Marshals Task Force was utilizing a ping location process to locate the victim's cell phone, and that they had located that cell phone at an address somewhere in Shively. And I basically responded to that location.
Did you say it was in Shively?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall where in Shively?
I'd have to refer to my investigative report, but I don't recall the address. But it was a family member of an individual involved in the case.
So you went to the house?
Yes.
Or was it a house or apartment?
It was a house.
Okay. What happened when you got there?
I made contact with the homeowner and her daughter. It was a bi-level house. So when you walked into the living room, immediately to the right, there was the second level was like maybe like 6 feet higher than the level you're standing on. And I had a clear view into a bedroom up a short set of stairs. And I observed an individual on a cell phone. And when he saw me, he took the cell phone immediately, concealed it under the mattress.
Were you able to collect that cell phone?
I was.
Who was that individual?
Elmont Carter.
And to your understanding, did the cell phone belong to Maurice Gordon?
Yes.
What did you do with Mr. Carter?
Mr. Carter went to the homicide unit office for an interview.
Did you do one more thing with this case?
Yes, I was alerted on another day to come to a location off of, I believe it was in Georgetown Circle, over on Berry Boulevard, to collect a set of shoes or boots that belonged to another one of the victims in this case.
One second. Let me just. Okay. Judge Mayor, first with us.
Okay.
71, 2, and 3. Recognize those photos.
I do.
What are those?
They're pictures of the boots that I collected at the location.
Are those a fair and accurate representation?
Yes.
Your Honor, the Commonwealth moves to introduce 71 through 3.
No objection.
Admitted.
Whose address was this?
I don't recall. I had to refer to my investigative report. I believe it was a friend or maybe a sister of a friend of one of the victims, but I don't recall exactly.
One of the co-defendants?
Co-defendants, sorry.
And is this boots as you found them?
Yes,
Was this young lady, cooperative with you all?
she was.
The next one, are these the same boots?
Yes.
And, is that the same boot? Okay. And what did you do with these boots?
I took them to the crime scene unit lab and had them processed and secured into the Louisville Metro Police Department room for potential examination.
And I know you can't remember dates, but was this all in the same 1 week period or so, thereabouts?
This is within days of the initial notification. Yes.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Any questions?
Judge, you had said you wanted.
Oh, that's right. I'm glad you said that. I wanted to break for lunch before we did cross-examination. All right, so we are going to go ahead and break for lunch. I will
Okay,
introduce
so
those and
actually
read the
that worked
admonition one
out
more
pretty
time.
good.
Before you go on break, please recall my earlier order. You are not to do any research.
So we got cut off.
Search warrant.
Right before they broke for
In-
lunch.
You did recover.
Does look like this guy resumes the. Okay, so
Anything we need to talk
just to reiterate, this is today's testimony, day 2 of the Brice Rhodes trial. He's on trial for the deaths of. Oh, and Poppy says hello. Poppy, say hello to Crime Spies. Brice is on trial for the 2016 murder on May the 4th of Christopher Jones. He was 40 years old. He was shot to death. And the two boys underneath my head here witnessed Christopher Jones' shooting. Well, 3 weeks later, on May 21st, there was underneath the victims here, there's a little box that's kind of cycling through the bullet points. Larry and Maurice got into an altercation with the defendant in his car. Subsequently, they were brought back to Brice's mother's apartment. Apparently, his mother and his sister lived there with 3 co-conspirators or co-defendants, not co-defendants, 3 other kids. The defendant was age 26 at the time. These 2 boys were 14 and 16. And then there was 3 other people. I believe their ages were between 15, 17, and 19, roughly. But they took one of the brothers into a room and stabbed them to death, basically tortured while they were stabbing the one brother, while the other brother was in the other room listening. Then they brought him in and did the same thing. They put their bodies in a tote, each in a tote, separate tote, put in the back of Brice's car in the back seat, and then the other brother was put in the trunk, and then they were dumped in a field. So the testimony, I know this gets confusing, but day 1 and the morning session of day 2 is on the previous live stream. Day 1 was yesterday. They had opening statements by the prosecutor and by the defense. The defense is claiming that this Brice guy was just an innocent bystander. His DNA is only found on the steering wheel and the shift knob of his blue Mazda. Sigh. He is not competent to receive the death penalty sentence. The picture that I have on the thumbnail is a mask that he was put in after he spit on one of his attorneys. Again, the little box in the lower left-hand corner of the screen kind of rifles through some of the points of this trial. So I had a little internet issue. and just shut everything down and restarted this one, which basically picks up after the lunch break of today's testimony. And on the road to 500, I appreciate you being here. I am crocheting a hat to go with the cowl scarf I made yesterday when we were watching the Duger family Shiny Happy People documentary. Okay, so hopefully that gets you caught up.
Thank you. No,
This guy has had quite the antics. I know one of the articles actually,
still under oath.
one of the articles actually that I read said he kind of gives off the Daryl Brooks vibes. Daryl Brooks was the guy that didn't he defend him, or didn't he represent himself, I think, in Wisconsin for running over those people in the parade, the band and the dancing grandmas. I could not watch that trial because my son was in marching band all through high school. And so when the crime first happened, I saw the footage and I couldn't shake that image. But he kind of gives off the Daryl. Now, oh, look, now this afternoon he has lost his he had a smart pocket square in his jacket pocket this morning. Anyway, so again, here we are picking up on today's testimony after the lunch break. We are playing at 1.25 times speed. Got quite a bit of testimony left. And the witnesses so far, day one, which was yesterday, that we watched this morning, were two officers. The first officer was the officer that responded on May the 4th to Christopher Jones' shooting. And then the detective that looked into that. Then day two this morning started off with a very brief testimony from Christopher Jones' sister, who identified a picture of him, spoke about, he was the father, I believe, of 3. And the defense just said, "I'm sorry for your loss," and had no questions. Then there was quite a lengthy testimony from Jessica, who is a crime scene technician. So then it started the witnesses for the two brothers here. And so far now, like that was all so far of the Christopher Jones, the shooting that happened. Okay. Continue.
Anything we need to talk about with regard to the admonition? Excellent. All right, Mr. Griffiths.
Oh, sorry. One other thing, if you missed out on this morning so far and are tuning in now, this guy here, because he's had such antics during this whole entire process, the judge has basically said, if you can't behave yourself, she entertained the thought of putting on some kind of shock collar on him. If he can't behave himself. So far today he has. Like I said, he lost his pocket square. It was yellow. Looked like a paisley.
I did. It's okay.
Sorry. Good afternoon.
So
I'm not going to go through everything that you already talked about again. So
sorry. So the witnesses this morning, Christopher Jones' sister. That was the end of the Christopher Jones thing. Then Jessica, I think her last name was Hoffman. She testified the longest. This guy's been up there for a while, but she testified the longest. She was the crime scene technician. There was one of the photos that they showed, I believe it was the victims laying on the ground, and I moved one of the squares over once I saw that, just out of respect for the victims. And then the camera moved away, and the camera didn't go back up to the screen behind him until after the victims' bodies were removed. So Um, I think that's the end of that. Um, After the technician, then it was the grandmother of the two brothers here. Very short statement. Then it was a detective that showed up, a woman, and then I think it was this guy. I think that's right now.
If I'm jumping from topic to topic and I get confusing, tell me, okay? Because that's my fault. That's not your fault. I wanted to start off just by asking you a couple questions about your report. It doesn't look like it's in front of you, but you reviewed it before you came, right?
Briefly, yes.
Okay. Your report's actually dated 2018. Is that because that's the last time? Does it do the thing like where it updates to the most recent edition, or is it something you actually wrote 2018?
It's something I wrote in 18.
Okay. So the work that you did on this case in 2016 wasn't memorialized into your report until 2018.
In that form, no.
Okay.
Correct.
Prior to that, it was in note form or handwritten form, something like that?
Yes.
Okay. And after you wrote your report in 2018, you actually went back and corrected it, did an addendum to it?
I did. I'd left out some information that was in my notes mistakenly.
And there's a method that you can go back and do that and fix that right on the computer and add something more?
No, it was an individual report, a separate report.
Okay, so a separate report, but referencing the first one.
I'm referencing the information I left out.
Okay.
Yes.
You did a few different things in this case, and you laid them out. In addition to what you explained on direct, you also participated in the interviews of N1 Carter on the 24th of May in 2016.
If you say that, yes, I agree. I do not recall.
Okay.
It's been some time.
And you participated in the interview of, and when I say N1 Carter, I'm talking about the suspect in this case, N1 Carter.
Okay.
And you participated in the interview on the 25th of May of Jacory Taylor, also a suspect in this case.
Okay.
Do you remember participating in the interview, sitting down and questioning the suspects in this case?
I do not.
Okay. Would you be surprised if there's transcripts provided by the prosecution that lists you as the detective actually doing questioning?
It would not surprise me at all.
Okay. You talked about recovering some pieces of evidence in this case. That was part of your testimony earlier today.
Yes.
And you walked through some of the places you were when you were recovering these objects and things like that.
Yes.
When you were interviewing Jacory Taylor, you told him that one of the objects that you had recovered was the back seat of the Mazda. Do you remember doing that, sir?
I do not.
So again, one of the bodies was put in the back seat of the
Would you like
Mazda.
to see the transcript of that interview that shows you making that statement?
Sure.
Okay. For you guys, page 79. This one was marked May 25th. I know it was marked wrong, so I'm not trying to. All right. Let's see.
Oh, keyboard warriors back.
It's a big document, so I pulled out the right page. All right. That's you, Detective Vance, right? There's not 16 different Detective Vances on this case. And I'm not trying to rush you, so you tell me when you've read it. It's in the middle. I'm going to open mine to the.
So you're referencing line 15 on page 79 and on down.
I turned the volume on the video down a little bit.
I do actually remember this conversation now.
Okay. So now that you're looking at this, you're able to remember
Going in the red zone.
the conversation.
I remember that we were called, we as the police department was called to a location, a dumpster, and it was in the south end, which is what prompted, allowed me to recall that memory
Yes.
in the transcript.
And I apologize because the topic actually begins the page, and I wasn't trying to be tricky. I just got it starts the very next page before 78. If you go backwards, single page, and you went forward. I think it's at the very back there.
What page are we on?
78 is what I should have said. I said 79. So I'm going to give you a second to look at page 78. You let me know when you're ready.
Okay.
Okay. So you see that you were saying you remembered going to the dumpster, and in that dumpster, do you remember recovering the seat there?
That's what I stated to the person I'm interviewing at the time, Corey Taylor. But I do not recall that, but I'm reading the transcript.
Okay. And again, I just want to turn to the very front, and I'm not trying to make a mess of it.
You're good.
The transcript is from the 25th of May. It says 2015, but it should say 2016.
Right.
Is that correct, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Those are my questions about that. I'm gonna put this here just on the off chance that they have a question.
You're good.
Okay, and I want to ask you about other items that you recovered, some of which you testified about a little bit. I just want to make sure I'm clear on it. You testified that you recovered a phone,
Yes.
right? And you recovered that from one of the other suspects in the case, specifically Antoine Carter?
Yes.
All right. And that phone turned out to be the property of one of the victims.
Yes.
Okay. You also recovered boots from a friend of one of the other suspects, Corey Taylor.
Yes.
Okay. And those boots turned out to be the property of one of the victims in the case.
Yes, I believe so, yes.
And you did not, you participated in the arrest of Mr. Rhodes.
Yes.
You did not recover from Mr. Rhodes any property that belonged to the victims in this case.
I didn't take any action to recover anything, so I wouldn't have been in that capacity.
But I'm just saying, you did recover other pieces of property, so you did not, in any capacity, recover property that belonged to the victims from Mr. Rhodes.
No.
Okay. I have no further questions.
When you were doing these interviews, were you the only detective interviewing them?
No, I was not.
Do you all sometimes like take turns coming in and out of interview rooms?
We do.
Did you go to the scene where the dumpster was?
No,
Do you know which detectives did?
I do not. I just remember that it was a unique situation, so that's what recall when I read it in transcript. That's what made me recall that memory.
So you would have heard about whatever was recovered at the dumpster from other detectives?
Yes.
No further questions.
I have no recross.
All right, you're free to step down.
Judge, may I get my document back?
Yes, please.
Okay, another witness is done.
Someone would like to call their next witness?
Could you tell the jury your name?
Chris Middleton.
And
Chris
where
Middleton.
did you work?
Used to work for Louisville Metro Police Department.
How long were you there?
21 years.
And how did you come to leave?
Retirement.
Where are you now?
I'm retired, working for a sales agency.
Okay. Were you
Okay,
in the police department
pause.
in May of 2016?
Yes.
What unit were you?
Just want to pause for a moment. One of the detectives from day one's testimony yesterday that we watched this earlier today, he also retired, is now doing home appraisals. Now, for those of you who have been subscriber / follower of Crime Spies, a few weeks ago, I did the Megyn Kelly interview with my friend Bob Kroll's wife, Liz Collin, and the producer, JC, shoot, I always forget his last name, for The Fall of Minneapolis about George Floyd. It just came out like 3 weeks ago. We went through the Megyn Kelly interview. I got some really great feedback on it. Did not watch the documentary because, well, I watched it just because it had just come out and they're friends of mine. But if you go to thefallofminneapolis.com, you will be able to watch it. It was crowdfunded, so there is no fee to watch it. And from what I recall, I didn't even have to register like my email or anything. So it was really good. But, you know, it's just kind of like the trend, the defund the police and all the stuff that happened here in Minneapolis. Lots of really great law enforcement have taken early retirement. And this is another detective that worked on the case in 2016 and now these years later is doing something outside of law enforcement. It's really sad. Okay, continue.
He's in the homicide.
How long were you a homicide detective?
Altogether, approximately 13 years.
Were you involved in the case where Larry and Maurice were killed?
Yes, to some extent, yes.
Can you tell us how you got involved? What was the first thing you did on this case?
I believe the first thing I
So again, this is going to pertain to the two brothers, torture and subsequent stabbings.
did on it was assist in the arrest of Mr. Rhodes, and then in the drafting and executing of search warrants.
Well, let's start with the arrest. How did you get involved in that?
It's been a while, so bear with me. Remember, we had our own radio station, our radio channel. They come across and said, I believe it was that they were following Mr. Rhodes, asked that I assist in it. At the time, I was driving a car that wasn't real common. His police car was a white Toyota Camry, so it wasn't as noticeable. So I followed him, made contact with him at Speedway on Preston Highway, and at which time he was placed under arrest and taken into custody.
Where is that Speedway on Preston?
If you're familiar with Preston Highway, but the closest reference I can give you would be Indian Trail and Preston Highway, right across from, I guess it was an old feeder supply or something like that, Staples or whatever, Pep Boys right there, to give you an idea. I guess that's the closest I can put you.
So how many detectives were involved in the arrest, if you recall?
I know I would feel comfortable saying maybe 4 or 5.
And were you the actual arresting officer?
I was the one that made first contact with Mr. Rhodes, yes.
So he was arrested, and did somebody else take him?
Yes.
What did you do after that?
Eventually, somehow I came to writing a search warrant.
Okay. Was this the same day?
I think so, yes.
And would you recall the date,
I'd have to look at my notes.
if you could?
I guess it was done May 24th, 2016.
May 24th. Can you tell the jury what a search warrant is?
Search warrant, trying to put it in the best way possible. Basically, it's the gathering of information, compiling it together from every source you've got, whether it be other detectives, witnesses, involved parties, sometimes even actually the suspect. Take that information, gather them together, draft it into a written form, present it to a judge for their approval, and if probable cause is found to issue that search warrant, it gives us the opportunity to enter a residence, a car, and sometimes even search a person if need be to more extent than just patting down pockets and stuff like that. But it is presented to a judge. The judge reads it, and if that judge finds probable cause, it is issued, and we execute the warrant. When I say execute, it means we go serve the warrant. We either search the house, the car, the person, or whatever it may be. Maybe it's sometimes something as mundane as just records, but it's a legal document giving you the authority to search for an item of evidence.
What were you searching or seeking to search when you drafted the search warrant?
Taking the information I've given, initially we were searching the residence, I think, to see if any items of evidentiary value, that would be, whether it be a weapon, clothing, notes, just anything that showed evidentiary value of any involvement.
And when you say the residence, whose residence?
Mr. Rhodes' residence.
And where was that residence?
It's on Height Avenue.
Okay. And is that in Jefferson County?
Yes.
Do you know what major street is Height off of?
Brownsboro.
After you drafted the search warrant, did a judge sign it?
Yes.
And did you go execute it?
Yes.
What did you find in the house?
Well, we actually did 2 warrants.
Hey, puppy.
The first warrant, I think we found 2 knives and a hammer.
Okay. Did you collect those?
Yes, they were collected by the crime scene unit.
What happened next?
We closed out the warrant, exited the house. I made a phone call to Sergeant Donnie Burbrink at the time, let him know we finished up the warrant.
So was he like your supervisor?
Yes, I'm sorry. Either immediately or just a short time later, he called me, or we discussed that a second warrant would need to be drafted because we'd already closed this one out. A second one needed to be drafted because of new information gained during interviews and through the investigation.
So was this information you all didn't have when you were doing the first warrants?
Right.
So did you draft a second warrant?
Yes.
Did you all go back in the house?
Yes.
This time, what was the difference? What were you looking for?
This time, I think it was more towards the effect of more of a forensic style evidence, not actual physical evidence that you pick up and can carry out, but items that would be indicative that something happened at the scene, whether it be body of fluids, minute pieces of evidence, stuff like that, stuff that would take more of a forensics manner.
So what did you do during the second search warrant?
To be honest with you, I sat and watched the crime scene unit do their job because I'm not a forensics person. I'm not smart enough to do that job.
What did you see them do?
They provided, I think it was called luminol. It's a reactive agent that they spray, and once you spray it, it reacts with blood in terms of blue color. So they did that, and at that time it was decided, due to the magnitude of it, we actually removed all the carpet in the living room of the house.
So When they sprayed it, what did you see?
Blue.
On the carpet?
Yes. And actually on some plants too, like some potted fake plants.
And at that point, did somebody take up the carpet in your presence?
Decision was made at that time to remove the carpet from the residence.
What type of carpet are we talking about? Was it
Like
an area rug or was it wall-to-wall carpet?
Oh, it was like wall-to-wall carpet. It was installed carpet.
And do you recall what time you were there?
I think on reviewing my notes, I think we left like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
So we were there for quite a while.
Amen.
Showed you what we've marked as 74 through 87. Did you just look at these pictures outside?
Yes, I did.
Do they fairly accurately represent the apartment on Heights that evening?
Yes.
How long is to introduce 74 through
74 to
87.
87.
87?
Any objection?
No.
Admitted.
Excuse me?
What is this picture?
This would be the front of the apartment complex.
And if you go in those front doors, would you get to the apartment in question?
Right.
Is this the living room of the apartment?
Yes.
Into the kitchen, I guess?
Right. That's
Just
the
another
kitchen.
angle.
Mhm.
Just turn this one. What room is this?
That's a bathroom. Let's get in the bathroom.
Okay. Is that looking into a bedroom?
Yes.
Oops. Another bedroom?
Yes.
Is this a trash can in the apartment?
Yes.
And is this also in the apartment?
Yes.
And is this the room where we're about to see some knives under a mattress?
Yes.
Uh, Were those in the same bedroom?
I believe so, yes.
And at this point, do you have any idea if these are connected to this case?
I have no idea. And you know, that's part of the search warrant. You have your known injuries or your known situations. And then part of the search warrant, this could be possibly related, it possibly could not be, but it's.
God, I wonder if they use the hammer and that,
And
is that a
this one of the
corkscrew?
knives you collected?
Yes.
And is that the other one?
Yes.
Were those the only two things you collected during the first search warrant?
Yes.
During the second search warrant, did you physically have the carpet collected and taken out of the apartment?
Yes.
The carpet, also carpet matting?
Yes.
No further questions?
I missed what you said your job is now.
Work for a sales agency, sir.
Okay. I might still call you detective at a reflex.
Okay.
Your involvement in this case was only the arrest and then the search warrant. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Mhm.
So you didn't go out to any of the other scenes or anything else?
Not that I remember. We were, just so busy. It was help when you can help.
Okay. You initially said that you collected 2 knives and a hammer. I think we saw a photo with 2 knives and a hammer. But isn't it correct you actually only collected the knives?
It possibly could be. I think I didn't look at my notes when I said that.
it looked like a corkscrew,
To be honest with you,
for like
these are. It
wine.
says small knife and large knife, but like I said, they're so. When you copy stuff, it's hard to read. So.
Okay, I wasn't sure. You said it's so, but I wasn't sure at the end of the sentence was. So you were, and I think you just said this, but I'm trying to make sure I got it right. You were done with the first search.
We had finished the first search warrant. Yes.
And when I say done, like you got in the car, you told the other officers to go about their business, and you left.
I don't remember if I'd actually got out of the apartment complex or not. I don't remember if I even made it off the road or what. I mean, it was. I don't remember.
Well, if you look, you note when you're done with the first search, right?
Right, but with that being said, you can have a time that you're finished and still have control of the scene because it takes time to draft the second warrant, takes time to get the judge to sign it, it takes time to get it. So you may have a clearance time on here. I'll give you an example. What's it say the clearance time is? 23:11. And then if you go over here on this one, 23:56. So you're talking a span of 45 minutes.
Yes.
So with that being said, you know, driving from Height out off Brownsboro Road to back to the office to a judge and back, I would feel pretty comfortable saying that we didn't even make it out of the area because it's such a fast turnaround. You know, it was a computer written warrant, so it's not something I hand wrote on scene. So, you know, it would have been something I feel comfortable saying there's a good possibility that we never even made it out of the parking lot before the phone call was made. Because I would have called my sergeant as soon as we cleared it and let him know that we're done. So, you know, I feel comfortable saying that he's like, hey, we got another warrant. But because we'd already closed it out, once we draw that line across it, that warrant's closed. And it doesn't matter if we stay in the parking lot for 5 days or 5 seconds, we're going to have to write another warrant because we've shut the door and we've walked away from it.
Are you saying you actually wrote the second warrant? I thought the second warrant was prepared by someone else.
If you look at it here, the first warrant is
But I may not have been clear. I meant the second.
Detective Chris Milton. Both warrants are mine.
Okay. And you're saying you prepared the second one by computer?
Yeah, they're all done by computer these days. I mean, I haven't written a hand warrant since probably 06.
Okay. You do agree, however, that well, maybe you don't remember. Would you be surprised if we've already heard testimony that the people involved in the first were leaving and exiting the scene?
Wouldn't surprise me at least a little bit.
Okay.
And like I said, I could have, the fact of the matter is, I could have released everybody because I wrote the warrant, made the phone call, and said, hey, here we are. I got to write another warrant. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I don't know the exact answer. But with such a short turnaround, you know, it wasn't my habit to leave a house unsecured.
Would you be surprised if we've already heard that the owner was told, you can go back in, we're done?
No, I have not. I wouldn't be surprised, but like I said, it's what, 7 years later, so.
Sure. You talked about how CSU, the crime scene unit, I shouldn't use abbreviations, was present in the second, but they were also present in the first search warrant.
Yes, yes.
And in fact, you note in your report that I'm not going to get this name right. Allgaier, that is correct. That specifically a tech named Allgaier was there in the first, and that person, I think, would have been responsible for any crime scene analysis that needed to be done, right?
Like I said earlier, the first warrant wasn't so much as analysis done; it was a gathering of possible evidence. Where the second one was more of a forensics gathering of evidence. You know, using the luminol and gathering that type of stuff. So I can't really talk to each person from the crime scene unit. I can't really talk to each one's position or role.
Understood. Okay. But I wanted to make clear there were some folks from CSU there.
Right.
First time.
Right.
Were you the one telling them what to do or what not to do in the first search?
As I stated earlier, I try not to. There may be items that I point out, but I've not been to forensic classes and stuff like that. So just like I've never been to law school, I'm not going to tell you your job.
But you were in charge of the scene?
I am in charge of the scene.
At both warrants?
Yeah, and part of being in charge is to have people delegated that know what they're doing.
Well, you're not. Hopefully we have some people from CSU coming and testify. You talked a little bit about how luminol works a second ago. Luminol actually hits on a wide variety of things, doesn't it?
It does, and it's not an end-all thing. It's I guess.
Yeah, but then they collect the evidence and determine, yes, it is blood.
It's a presumptive, be a fair word.
Presumptive. This guy's grabbing at straws.
And so with further investigation, further analysis, that proves what you thought. It's same thing to old high school science, hypothesis and theory and all that. You get your evidence from doing your proper testing.
You also processed a search warrant on the Mazda in this case.
I did a search warrant, yes.
So let's talk about the Mazda for a second. When you went and processed the Mazda, were you the one who removed, scratch that, when you got there and were processing it, it already was missing its back seat, is that correct?
Possibly. I don't remember much about the Mazda at all.
Do you have an indication in your report?
I don't think I do. I think my report goes more with the house. I may not have even.
Don't you think they would review the report before they testify?
But you did do the search warrant for that.
I did the search warrant. And the thing about a search warrant, I can do it, I can walk in, I can execute it, and I'm part of the homicide unit. I trust the guys that I work with to do their job. You know, so it's not a big thing to execute it and then get called on to do something else, another part of an investigation. So, you know, you're not always present once it's done.
Were you, as the author of the search warrant, were you in control of the scene on the Mazda?
I don't remember much about the miles. I don't think I had much involvement with it.
What I asked was whether or not you were in control of the scene.
Like I said, I don't remember much about the Mazda. I couldn't tell you if I was there with it or not. That's what I answered.
Okay. So you're not sure?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as far as what happened to the rear seat of the car, the Mazda specifically, you just don't know.
I have no idea.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Have a good day.
Like I said earlier, when that Jessica,
Get the search warrant straight. I mean, there was the first
Pro-
search warrant you
just
list.
a minute, I'll wait.
Did it cover the apartment and the Mazda?
Yes.
And would it have been common for you all to split up the duties?
Absolutely.
And would the Mazda have been searched on scene or at the auto garage?
Could have been done either way.
And as far as you remember, you just participated in the search of the apartment.
Right.
What was the difference between the information you all possessed between the first warrant and the second warrant that caused you to search differently?
My understanding was due to interviews that were
Judge,
conducted.
I'm going to object to here's a
Can I approach?
approach. Like I was saying, that Jessica, the technician, you know, I think their crime rate in Louisville, it's,
We're interviewing.
I
were
can't
interviews
say it
being
the way
actively
they
conducted down at the
pronounce
station
it.
While you were on scene.
Yes.
And is it your understanding that more information came to light that led the homicide unit to believe that this actually was the crime scene?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Seems like the crime rate must be really high because
I sat down and looked again at your report, which I believe is the exact document in front of you. You
Oh.
testified,
Feisty
I
guy.
think it was Feisty, that you closed out and finished the first warrant at 23:11.
Like I said, it's hard to read, but it's what it appears to say.
I think it says 22:11, a whole hour earlier.
Got a better copy?
I don't know, let me see yours. That's a terrible copy. But that's not the, let me see if I can look.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay. Where I was getting it was there. So what does that say?
Even better, 2211, because that would give plenty of time to write the warrant and get back and get it done. So, I mean, that's still an hour difference. Doesn't make it's not a deal.
Well, let me make sure that it's clear, though, what we're talking about with the jury. So you had said it's such a short amount of time that you would just be sitting in the parking lot, but actually the amount of time from when you cleared was not quite 2 hours, an hour and 45 minutes.
Possibly so, but I mean, like I said, it's
I'm just making sure I got the times
right. You're right on the times, but
Okay.
it's not. I was kind of proud of myself, to be honest with you, to get one done in 45 minutes. So it makes more sense.
So, yeah. I think that rather short window right there.
I was kind of proud of myself on that one.
So, and when we're talking about, every once in a while, I understand military time, I can do the conversion, but just so it's clear with everybody, you then cleared the first warrant, and according to your report, we're done at 22:11. That's 10 p.m., 10:11, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then the next warrant, you began serving, or the next warrant at 23:56, right? So that's 11:56 p.m. Okay, I'm just making sure I got that right. Thank you. I don't have any further questions.
All right, you may step down. Thank you.
just seems like their crime rate must be out of this world.
Yeah, you're free to go. Thanks.
He's got quite
Someone
the
ready for
team.
Next witness.
Is the one called Christopher Jensen?
Thank you.
Christopher Jensen. I don't need to look at Freakosaurus Rex here. Rapper. What was his rapper name now? Rambo. He's got a band-aid at the back of his head. Look at that. Was that there this morning? I don't know. His skull looks pretty lumpy.
All right, you want to go ahead and take a 5-minute pause? Okay. We're going to take
Also,
a
can
5-minute
someone
break.
explain to me-
After that, let's see, it's almost 2 o'clock. Just be back in front of the doors at 2 o'clock, please.
All rise for the jury.
Because it's listed on the CSU report, blank. Detective Snyder
Second
was-
scene meaning height.
Height.
Uh-huh.
Not blank, but black.
Okay,
Oh.
they left the
So
microphone
Detective
on.
Snyder drove it over to us quickly and extra copy. But Mr. Cunningham went down and viewed it, and I'll let him speak to it himself.
Okay.
I've made some notations on when you can see some stuff. I mean, somebody was kind of filming in the dark. There's a point in the middle where you can see some flash of red, and then a minute or two later, you can see somebody's hand come into focus. But you have a sense that something's recording, but otherwise, it's pretty black.
Well, let me ask this. Was there ever a working video? Like, was it, do we know if it ever worked after it was taken?
It looks like they were trying to film the Blue Star. That's why it's dark. But I don't know. This is the first time that we have had a copy of this, and Detective Tonelli has never had a copy of it. So, Kimmer, who's coming later, CSU to testify, is the one who took it.
Has anybody asked that person about it?
She's here.
Oh, I'm just wondering, like, did that person ever watch it and know if it worked or not? I mean, it seems like you do that before you left the scene. It's a little shocking to me.
Judge, I could put on the record, it's probably obvious, but we also have never had this before today.
Sure. I understand. I'm just trying to figure out, like, was it ever a working video?
Not to our knowledge.
Okay.
And it's given that they were Blue Starring during this. I assume that's what they were trying to film.
Yeah,
And they back then did not film search warrants, so I was surprised when
I gotcha that there was even film at all. Okay. Well, I don't suppose you're planning on showing it if it doesn't show anything.
I'm listening because
You're fine. Take your time.
the last couple trials,
So, I guess apparently when they first started filming the Blue Star, even the light from the camera itself would bleed out what they were trying to film. So they didn't know how to use the camera to record the process.
I gotcha. But so my question is, I'm assuming you're not planning on showing it.
No, I just didn't want, like, we found out about it.
Okay,
So
that's fine. I think you've done everything that you can do. And you all can have tonight to look at it and decide if you want to make any motions related to it, or if it's just, it doesn't work. We all got it when we got it. Move on. Okay.
I did have one question. The witness who
By the way, thank you for driving it over.
is involved in the person who's, are you currently on them today or tomorrow?
oh, now it's gone. The last couple trials I've had, the judge has forbidden any audio of sidebars or any audio of anything outside the presence of the jury. I'm curious when the co-conspirators are going to, or co-defendants, the people that participated.
Anything else? Can I be seated? Anybody
Part
have
of their
anything to report?
sweetheart deals was
Excellent.
testifying against Brice
All right. Ms. Jones, can I come up with
Rambo
statements, please?
Rhodes, aka
Mr.
Freakosaurus
Johnson.
Rex. Thank you for joining me.
Mr.
It's a
Jensen,
long
good
day.
afternoon. I'm going to need to swear you in. If you could raise your right hand for me. Thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
Thanks. You can put your hand down. Go ahead.
Could you tell your name to the jury, sir?
Christopher Allen Jensen.
And Mr. Jensen, it appears you're in custody.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you serving over in Indiana?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it anything to do with this case?
No.
Back in 2016,
Christopher Jensen.
did you live in an apartment on Haight Avenue?
Yeah, North Hyde, or is it Hyde Avenue Gardens?
Okay. What type of apartment complex was it?
It was a condominiums, that some people would rent out the condos to, like, people owned them, but they would rent them out to different people. Kind of like subleasing, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And were you subleasing there?
I wasn't, but I lived with somebody who was. I was their roommate.
Okay. And did you, as a resident there, did you come to know one of your neighbors, Brice Rhodes?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
And
Oh,
did you
so he
all-
was
were you
Bryce's
acquaintances
neighbor.
Who talked and texted occasionally?
Yeah, we weren't really all that close. We didn't know each other for very long. It was just on occasion we would see each other.
Okay. And what type of car were you driving back then?
It was a 2016, I believe, Dodge Charger.
What color?
It was black.
Oh, this is
And was it
TJ.
your car?
No, it was a rental car through Enterprise, but it was in my name.
And how long had you had it?
It's been so long, I'm not really sure.
More than a weekend?
More than a weekend, yeah.
Was there a point where he borrowed the car from you?
Yeah, he borrowed it once and brought it right back to me, and then the second time he borrowed it, it didn't come back.
Do you recall when this was?
No, honestly, it's so long ago. It was warm outside. I know that.
In relation to, well, did a detective question you about this?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall when that was?
I can't really give you dates
Okay.
exactly.
Did the detective question you at the time? There were a lot of detectives at the scene doing an investigation.
Yes, ma'am.
How long before that had Mr. Rhodes borrowed the car?
It was the day when the car didn't come back. That's when detectives came and knocked on my door.
Okay. And you said 2 days before that was when he borrowed it for a short period of time?
Yeah, it was back to back, one day and then the next day. So he borrowed it 2 times, and then the second time didn't come back, and that's when the detectives were at my door.
Do you recall what day you told the detectives that he borrowed it?
No, ma'am.
If you saw a transcript of your interview, would that help refresh your memory?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
I'm showing you page 5.
Okay.
You can just look towards the bottom.
Yeah, that's right.
And do you remember now when you borrowed it?
Yeah,
And what day was that?
Saturday.
Okay. And that was the day he had it just for however long he was supposed to have it?
Yes, ma'am.
And then the second time he borrowed it, you said he didn't bring it back?
It didn't come back, and that's when I talked to detectives.
Okay. And did you ever get the car back?
No.
Okay. As far as you know, did detectives eventually seize the car?
Yeah, it was in evidence.
Did you know Mr. Rhodes to have his own car?
Yes, I believe it was a Mazda. I've seen him drive a Mazda, light blue Mazda 4-door.
Light blue Mazda. Okay. And did you tell detectives that he usually drove a light blue Mazda?
No, I don't believe I did.
One second. If I showed you a part of your interview, would that help refresh your recollection? It looks like you're all actually standing in front of a car at that point.
Yes, ma'am.
So did you let detectives know which car he usually drove
Yes, ma'am.
when he wasn't borrowing yours?
Yeah.
What were you all doing that Saturday when police came?
We were moving.
And by you all, I mean you and your roommate.
Yeah,
Sorry, not to be
yeah.
clear. Had you ever been in the blue Mazda?
No, ma'am.
And did detectives take DNA samples from you and anybody who you were friends with who'd been in your Charger?
Yes, ma'am.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Most
Mr.
questions?
Jensen,
Oh,
you said you let Mr.
Mr. Rhodes borrow your Dodge Charger, and you were renting that vehicle?
yes, ma'am.
You don't have any idea how many Dodge Chargers are in Louisville in 2016, correct? When Mr. Rhodes picked up that vehicle from you, there was no one with him in the car, correct?
No, ma'am.
And when he dropped the vehicle off, there was no one with him in the car, correct?
First time?
Either time.
Well, the first time there's nobody in the car. The second time I didn't see it because it didn't ever come back to me. So
And you actually received a text from Mr. Rhodes that told you he was in Elizabethtown, correct?
honestly, it's been so long, I can't really recollect that. I don't know. It was in 2016. I don't really remember details like that.
I have no further questions. Any redirect? No. All right, and free go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Jones Brown has come up ready to call their next witness.
Yes, Your Honor.
Boy, they sure go through these witnesses quickly.
Police homicide unit in
Oh. Too far.
Hi, Detective Rutherford. Could please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir.
Could you tell the jury your name, please?
My name is Chris Rutherford.
Where do you work?
I am employed by the Louisville Metro Police Department, and I'm currently assigned to LMPD's homicide unit in the cold case section now.
How long have you been with LMPD?
I've been with LMPD since 2008, summer of 2008.
And how long with the homicide unit?
Since the summer of 2015, so a little over 8 years.
When did you move over to cold case?
About a year and a half ago, last June.
So in 2016, you were with active cases.
Yeah, I was on what we refer to as the fresh side.
Did you have some involvement in the case?
The
we're going to
fresh
discuss?
side.
I did.
It looks like initially you dealt with fingerprints to some extent.
Correct. It taken a little while to identify the victims, so I was kind of involved in that process, scouring like records for missing persons, and then I transported the fingerprints, I believe, to the Department of Homeland Security to have them run them through their database to see if we could identify the victims that way.
And as far as you know, that led to no leaks, correct?
Correct. They had no record of the victims on file.
And is that common in children?
Yes.
And then on May 24th, did you become more involved in the case?
I did. On the 24th of May, I was requested to respond over to the Hyde Avenue, I think it's called the Hyde Gardens Apartments, to attempt to locate Chris Jensen. The defendant had been arrested in a car that Mr. Jensen had rented, and so I was assigned to attempt to find him and conduct an interview of him to see what he could tell us.
And were you able to locate Mr. Jensen?
We were.
And did he tell you whatever you asked him?
He did.
While you were talking to Mr. Jensen, did you learn what car the defendant usually drove?
Correct. We were able to get a description of a vehicle that the defendant was known to drive, and then subsequently located it in the apartment complex.
Did you personally see the vehicle?
I did.
And can you describe for the jury anything you remember about the vehicle?
It was a four-door, I believe it was a Mazda, light blue or silver in color. When I located it upon approaching the vehicle, I believe it was the driver's window was down. There's a strong odor of bleach emanating, like really, really strong odor of bleach emanating that I could actually smell from almost across the parking lot. Looking into the vehicle, the back seat was gone, been removed, and you could see into the trunk compartment too. And it appeared from the outside at that point that everything in the trunk compartment, like to include the carpeting, had been removed from the trunk.
Did you also take buckle swabs from anybody involved with the charger?
Correct. Anybody that we had known had been in the vehicle since Mr. Jensen had it, we requested buckle swabs for comparison purposes if they were needed.
And why is that?
For the lab processing and testing, for instance, if you're a known person that's been in that vehicle, they would want your DNA sample to be able to rule you out from somebody else's DNA that was located in that car.
So you had to get anybody who might have been in the charger.
Any known persons that Mr. Jensen, who's the renter of the vehicle, knew were in his car, we requested DNA samples from.
And at that point in the investigation, did you all have any idea of how much or how little the charger would be involved?
I personally did not.
You may.
I'm showing you what we marked as 87 and 88. Look at those. Pass those photos.
Yeah, this would be the Mazda that was identified as one that was had been operated or known to have been operated by Mr. Rhodes.
Your Honor, the Commonwealth moves to admit those as 87 and 88.
No objection. Admitted.
No objection.
That's right.
Okay. And is this as you found it in the apartment complex?
That's correct.
Great. No further questions. Thank you.
Boy, another
You just
fast.
testified that the windows in that vehicle were down, and the picture that you said reflects the way that you found it, the windows were up.
As my recollection is, the driver's window was down.
There was no back seat in that vehicle when you found it?
Correct.
And you participated in these searches of Hyde Avenue, is that correct?
Correct.
What was your,
Just assisting detective on the search.
did you happen to record any of your search
How so?
on video?
We did not have body cameras at that point.
Thank you.
When did LMPD issue body cameras to detectives?
I believe our unit got them in the summer of 2020, July, August-ish timeframe.
Thank you.
Any follow-up?
No, ma'am.
All right, Detective Rutherford, you're
Oh, we got another one. In and out.
Ms. Jones Brown?
QLB, quick like a bunny.
Probable cause.
So looks like we got a forensics.
My name is Rebecca Kimmer, Kimmer, and I am a crime scene technician with Louisville Metro Police Department, where I have worked for approximately 10 years.
What do you do with the crime scene?
I assist the detectives and officers on crime scenes that they may have. So we document, we go out, we photograph, do video, collect and obtain DNA or evidence from the scene. At that point, we bring it back to the office and do our further testing, where we then package and transport to the property room.
And on May 24th, 2016, did you respond to 763 Hyde Avenue, Unit 2?
Yes.
So far, like there's been such little about the first
On
guy,
that
Christopher
evening,
Jones.
myself and technicians
This
from
again
the
is
scene
with the
responded.
brothers.
We were responding to do a search warrant for Blue Star, which is a chemical that we are able to spray on. It enables us to see blood that's not visible with the naked eye. So it will fluoresce in a bright blue color with the presence of blood.
And did you do that at this location?
We did do that.
Where did you spray this?
We sprayed throughout the entire condo. We focused on the living room and then a bathroom.
And were you didn't know anything independently about this case, right?
I did not.
Okay, so just whatever the detectives told you to do.
That's right.
And you don't know where they were getting their information.
I do not.
So when you sprayed it, what happens? Like
So typically, once we spray, if the presence of blood is there, it will fluoresce in a bright blue color.
And is that, do you have to have the lights off to see that? Or?
We have to keep the lights off, and our cameras go on different settings in order to capture that luminescence.
And back then, was cameras quite this?
They were not, unfortunately.
So did you attempt to take pictures?
We did attempt to get photos. Unfortunately, the camera was not cooperating. At that point, we decided to try to capture the presence and the positive reaction on video, and that was not successful either.
So what do you do next if you can't memorialize that?
So once we determined that that was not successful, we moved on, and at that point, we just decided to take up the entire rug and carpet, along with the carpet padding throughout.
How do you get a carpet up?
We worked well together, pulling it up that night. We just cut and pulled it up, basically.
And was that carpet then collected?
That carpet was collected, and I transported that back to the crime scene unit. At that time, it was 633 West Jefferson.
So how many pieces, or like, did you have to cut it up? Did you roll it up?
So once we took the entire carpet, we took it back to the office, laid it out, and at that point, in a more controlled environment, I was able to get better photos, and then I did carpet cuttings of areas that were presumptive to be blood. And those were then sent off for testing later on.
So how big was did you pull it out in one piece?
We did.
And so we have the carpet
And then
the carpet padding?
Yes.
So is that just two large things?
It was two large things, yes.
And did you have to cut them into smaller pieces?
Once I got back, I did smaller cuttings to send those off to KSP for testing.
And how do you know what pieces to send to KSP?
You do presumptive testing that show up for blood, and then anything that I could see that was visible, I cut those pieces as well.
And we throw around acronyms so much I sometimes don't notice when I'm doing it. We say KSP. What are we talking
Oh,
about?
Kentucky State Police. I'm sorry.
And they run a crime lab?
They do, yes.
And is it your intention that they do a DNA test?
That's right.
Yes.
Show you 89 through 90B.
Thank you.
Those photos.
I do. Yes.
No objection.
Thank you. Admitted.
Just go through each picture and you just tell us what we're looking at.
Okay. So that's the carpet that we rolled back, and then the padding underneath there. And that's the padding. So that's the padding once we removed the carpet itself.
Is this the living room?
This is the living room, yes.
Would we have the kitchen to our backs?
Yes, and then the little hallway to the left up there is the entrance foyer from the entry exit door.
So you'll just move the furniture to the side.
I think that evening they, in order, once we did everything that we needed to do process-wise, the detectives moved the couch and whatnot out onto the small patio there.
Oops.
Again, that's just more of the padding with the photo or the staining underneath. And in this photo, this is where we started to peel back the
Come here.
the padding underneath, and that was just the floor there where it had soaked through. And just documenting the stains. Again, with the documentation of the stains. And just layering, so we just photographed layers as we took each layer off. Again, that's just the base.
Come here.
Gloves during this.
Yes.
Come here. Lay down.
And just more documentation of
turned
the
this on
stains
for
and
you.
the layering.
And is this the areas where
hit
the
the
blue star
keyboard, though.
reacted?
Yes.
Be careful. Don't unplug
And then that's just the padding
things.
again once more. Again, with the padding.
And so you said that was, you have to dry that, or?
Yes, so that carpet was saturated.
You're bad.
And so at that point, we took it back to the office. We laid down, we have brown paper that we lay down. We laid that down and then laid the carpet on top of that in order to let it dry on its own.
And is that, as far as the carpet goes, was that?
Yes.
Other,
Yes.
the next day, were you called to another location?
So yes, so later that evening, I believe, may I refer to my report?
Are you unable to recall?
I don't recall
That-
the time.
Okay, any problem with that? Okay, go ahead.
I believe it was, so we were called back out at 2:56 in the morning to another search warrant.
So would that have been on the 25th?
Yes,
Obviously, May 26th.
Here, look.
yes.
Puppy, look.
Where were you called?
We were called to
Puppy, here. Come here. over
6508 Hackle Drive.
Do you recall where that is?
It's in the 3rd Division. I believe it's off Cane Run Road, if memory serves
Puppy.
correctly.
And why were you called to that location?
Oh, we were called to that location in an attempt to collect evidence that the homicide detectives had been notified was there in the dumpster.
What manner of location was that?
It was the rear of an apartment building. There were 2 dumpsters back there, and they had knowledge of evidence in those dumpsters.
And so were there detectives already there when you got there?
Yes.
And what was your role at that scene?
So my role was again to photograph, document the scene as is, and at that point we started going through each dumpster and pulling every item out one by one, photographing and documenting what was in the dumpster.
Was it standard dumpster?
Yes, it was a functioning apartment complex. So
I don't know. She also gives me the impression like this is just, you know, everyday slashings. I did look at the address that they gave earlier, 4028. What is it, River Drive? And the homes around there, like 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, they're like $50,000. So I don't know. Sure sounds like it's not a very good neighborhood. Which is too bad because when I was in Louisville, back in the late 80s, that's where I saw Cliff from Dallas. Remember that old show Dallas? We stayed at the Galt House. And he was going up the escalator. I'm shouting, "Look, it's Cliff from Dallas." It was nice there.
For those photos you took that night at the
They are.
dumpster and at CSU right afterwards.
Yes.
Your Honor, the Commonwealth moves to introduce 99 through 133.
No objection.
Thank you. So, did you say 134?
33.
My
33,
goal
thank
by the end of this trial is to
Yes.
properly pronounce Louisville. Louisville. Like you have marbles in your mouth.
What are we looking at there?
We're just
Louisville.
looking at the beginning of the photos with the top layer of the trash and debris. These are articles of burnt, looks like towels and blankets, or that top layer there.
So they
Another
attempted to
blanket
burn
or
the
partial
boys
towel.
after they were dumped.
And then just more of the burnt evidence. Again, with the burnt, that's one of the comforters that was removed.
Did you all start taking stuff out?
Did. So once we initially looked into the dumpster, realized there were things in there, we started to slowly peel back the layers. So we would photograph, take out, photograph again, and then go back for another, what I would say, like a layer.
Ew.
And again, this is just another photo of once we cleared off that top portion.
So there would have been debris covering this layer in the beginning.
That's right. And then this was the pink blanket that was on top there in the previous photo. We just pulled it out and laid it out as best we could. This is a pillow that we located in there, and at the top left corner, there's a blue latex glove that had been burned and melted onto the pillow. Again, this is another towel that was kind of folded, wadded over inside of a latex glove. This was looked like maybe a body pillow of sorts, just a very long pillow that was also in there and burned. We took it off and took it out in the photograph. This is one of the
Don't they
sheets
call those
that came out
boleros?
of the dumpster. And this was the bottom of the dumpster. Once we pulled those other items out, this was the bottom. Again, just full of typical debris.
Garbage.
Just another angle. And at this point, we started to go a little bit further down where we located, I believe that to be a pillowcase, maybe. And just a different angle there. And then again, just a different angle. And this is where the detective is just slowly pulling things out so that I can photograph and as he's taking them out. And then this is another that we just laid there on the pavement. Just getting up close on the stains there that we found. Just more photos once we take them out. This is just another of the layering there. Okay, and this is back at the office where we were able to get a better look at it. So once we laid down the paper, we were able to see better and then lay it out in a more organized fashion, if you will. And at that point, we also will look for different defects or anything that we can see with the naked eye. And then again, this is just back at the office where we laid things out again, getting better photos in a more controlled environment. And that looks to be the same as the previous, looks like a fitted sheet, possibly. I believe this was a pillowcase, if I'm not mistaken. And then just possible staining there that we wanted to document. And this is a pillow that I spoke on earlier. This was a shoe that we recovered out of the dumpster that we brought back with us. And then this is the cell phone that we recovered. And this is that glove that I spoke on with the rag inside that was turned inside out, knotted in blue latex glove.
So at the time, do you know which of this evidence might have anything to do with this case?
We don't.
So do you have to
I don't.
collect everything?
We do.
Did you all collect absolutely everything for the dumpster, or did you make decisions about
They made decisions on what they wanted me to collect.
who made those decisions?
The detectives that were on scene.
Was that Detectives Peter and Metzler?
Yes.
So when you collect these items,
Yes.
does this case have a lot of boxes of evidence?
Yes. A lot.
Yes.
Here, look, over here. It's nice and toasty for you. Look. Whoops. This way. Puppy. This way. Come here. Come This way. This way. No, no, this way. Come here. Look it over here. It's nice and warm. Look, right here. See? Oh, yes. See, I got it nice and toasty for you. Yes, I do. With my 2 different flippers. Haven't gotten to this one yet. What do you think? Ooh. I'm going to fast forward you
64C,
through.
Exhibit 64C, which is a cutting from Exhibit 64.
Did you, bring gloves?
Grab a knife.
Your Honor, the Commonwealth moves to introduce 134 and 135.
Any objection
So-
subject to the prior discussion?
All right, we're going to fast forward.
Nothing specific to this case.
No, just in general. So we package it, we make a label for it here with the information for each case number.
Okay,
So they
this is just such a long day.
You want me to take it all the way out?
If you could just show the,
It's just taking stuff out of an evidence bag. I can't do the noise. Is that what, a piece of carpet padding? Yeah, we still have like 2 hours
Wasn't any more, but I just don't know.
left. This
You do
has
not
been
want
all
that, do you
day.
know? Okay.
Are these other items, just if you could look at those, tell us if these are other items collected.
This is 64B, which is another cutting from the padding and the carpet that was collected that evening.
Do we really care about this? Or can we fast forward?
This is 63A and 63B, which are more cuttings from Exhibit 63, which is the carpet and the padding. This is 64D, another cutting from Exhibit 64. Then we have 63E and 63F, which are 2 cuttings from Exhibit 63.
Please don't make her take all those out of the
If you open these,
boxes.
they look very similar.
Yes.
That'd be great. Thank you, Detective Snelling.
Because if I was a juror, I'd be eye rolling bigly.
When you submitted that to the lab, did you do it in these square pieces?
Yes.
And how, do you have a notation of how
Good.
many pieces got sent to the lab?
I do not. I wasn't the lead technician, so I was not in charge of sending those items out for testing.
So for those of you who are just joining me, the lower left-hand corner of the screen, I've just been putting up like
What did you note?
tidbits from the testimony today. This is from this afternoon's testimony, day 2,
That's right.
triple
Did you
murder.
collect anything,
So if you just
anything else?
take a moment to look at
Yes.
Look
so,
at the
along with the carpet cuttings
rotation
and the padding, we also collected wooden
text
clear
underneath
glass
the
vase that had
two
a
of the
brown artificial floral
victims.
arrangement in it
They're
that had
brothers.
possible blood, and then we collected a silver mirrored vase with another brown artificial floral arrangement that may have also had possible blood. And those are the only things that I collected from that apartment.
When you went to the dumpster, we saw a lot of pictures, and you said earlier that not every single, like you all wouldn't have collected, I don't even know, something on the bottom of the dumpster that, I won't put words in your mouth. Were there things from the dumpster you didn't collect?
That's right.
Okay. What was an example of the type of stuff you all were collecting?
We were mainly looking for items that appear to be burned, items that may have had possible blood or staining that could have been consistent with.
And the reason that they were looking for the burned items is because after the 2 young boys pictured on the center left of your screen, 14 and 16 respectively, they were brothers, witnesses to the other victim's shooting 3 weeks prior. They brought the boys into the apartment or the condo. This clown here, the defendant Brice Rhodes, brought him and 3 other teenagers basically brought the brothers into the room one at a time. So the first brother went in. They stabbed him to death, stabbed him to death, while his brother waited in the other room. And then when the one brother was dead, they brought the second brother in and repeated. Then after they were both deceased, they put each of their bodies in a tote, and then put the one brother in the back seat in a tote, and the other brother in the trunk in a tote. Brought him to a field, dumped them into a field, and then tried to light them on fire and burn them. Just horrifying. The 3 other people involved in the deaths of these 2 brothers have received sweetheart deals in exchange for their testimony against Brice Rhodes, also known as Rambo the Rapper. I'm calling him Freakosaurus Rex. So for those of you who are just tuning in now, that's kind of an overview. This is this afternoon's testimony. Continue.
Possible blood. We were looking for those type of items. Items that
I gotta take some
resemble bedding.
Tylenol.
We were looking
BRB.
for items such as that as well.
And if we could go through and if you could just tell the jury, you don't have to read the full summary of each item, but just like blanket, whatever.
Okay.
Obviously, we have a blanket already.
Okay. So Exhibit 67 was a burnt pink blanket, which is the exhibit that I just showed. Exhibit 68 was a burnt brown and green pillow. That's the one with the blue latex gloves that was burned to the top there. Exhibit 69, they were various burnt pieces of a towel. Exhibit 70 was a possible blue plastic tote that was partially melted. It was burned with miscellaneous dumpster items. That included a brown and white Hassel bag. And that I did note down here that had a strong odor of gasoline when we collected that. Exhibit 71 was a burnt blue, blue, purple, green, and white twin bed sheet. 72 was a burnt green and white fitted sheet. Exhibit 73 was a burnt, damaged black and silver Samsung cell phone. That was the cell phone that I showed. Exhibit 74 was a burnt, damaged black HTC cell phone. Exhibit 75 were 3 brown carpet cuttings that were located in the bottom of the dumpster. Exhibit 76 was a burnt white towel. Exhibit 77 was 1 partial burnt white sock. Exhibit 78 was 1 burnt green and white bed pillow. Exhibit 79 was 1 blue latex glove with the white fabric or cloth that was rolled into it. Exhibit 80 was 1 burnt black and silver Nike brand athletic shoe. And it was unknown at that time if it was a left or right shoe. Exhibit 81 was 1 burnt Reebok brand athletic shoe. Again, unknown if it was left or right. Exhibit 82 was 1 burnt white towel. Exhibit 83 was 1 burnt white and yellow flat sheet with some type of orange fabric that was attached to it. Exhibit 84 was 1 piece of miscellaneous burnt fabric. Exhibit 85 was 1 burnt Air brand athletic shoe. Again, unknown if it was left or right. Exhibit 86 was a cut piece of white knotted fabric. And Exhibit 87 was 1 white, blue, and red Murphy USA brand lighter.
And were all those items properly packaged and stored at CSU?
Yes, so they were all transported and secured in CSU that evening, at what point I then photographed everything individually. I was able to get a better look at everything, document anything that I thought could possibly be blood or defects, and they were then packaged and transported to the property room for safekeeping.
Is the property room a secure location?
Yes.
And is it from the property room that they're sent to the lab?
Yes.
Does the lab then send them ultimately back to the property room?
Yes.
And
we actually go pick them up. We transport them back and forth.
I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
Cross-exam? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Griffiths.
We haven't spoken before today.
No.
Okay. I bet you started and I missed how long you've worked for the LMPD.
Approximately 10 years.
Okay. And has it always been in the CSU unit?
Yes.
Okay. Prior to that, you worked outside, someplace else? Or
I've
is,
always been in the crime scene unit.
no. I mean, prior to working for LMPD.
Oh, yes. Prior to that, I worked for Norton Brownsboro Hospital. I was a medical lab technician there.
So you started off talking about, I think, photos and things.
Yes.
You may not know this, but I just got, when I say just got, I mean like 10 minutes before you got on the witness stand, just got this video.
Okay.
Do you know what's on this video?
I don't.
Okay. This, I was told, but I haven't had a chance to watch it.
Okay.
Is maybe from the scene of the search warrant on Hyde Avenue.
Yes.
All right. When I watch this, what will I see?
It's probably, most likely, going to be a dark video. That is the video that we took in an attempt to capture the Blue Star reaction when we couldn't get the Blue Star reaction on our camera. So then we attempted to do video and we were not able to capture it.
So you said dark video. I just want to make sure what you mean, because
It will be dark.
Like,
there should be darkness. The lights were off. It needs to be total darkness in order to capture those results. And so it will be completely blacked out.
okay. And when you say that, you mean, and I won't see any results either.
No, not on this video. We were not able to capture it on that video.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
I assume that you folks, I mean, I know you're in the CSU, you're in the, what's the stand for? I know. Like,
Crime scene unit?
Thank you.
Mhm.
I should know that. Okay. You guys are made of procedures, right? You have procedures on top of procedures.
Yes.
So when you make a video like this, what's the procedure?
In terms of,
What happens to it? I mean, you don't like put it in your pocket and leave with it.
no, at that time in 2016, our videos then became exhibits. So our video then turned into Exhibit 62, which was scene video. We labeled those, they became an exhibit, and they were secured then.
So did you know that this was something that we just got today, this afternoon?
When you told me just now.
Just now?
Yeah.
Okay, I was curious.
No.
So somewhere along the lines from, were you the one actually holding the camera?
Yes.
Okay. Somewhere along the lines of you holding the camera in this courtroom, something did not go right.
Right.
If I'm just getting it now, 7 years later.
Well, not that it didn't go right. We were attempting to capture the results of the Blue Star on video. We were not able to capture it due to the lighting, and the camera has to have a certain amount of filtering settings in order to capture those results. We thought we might be able to get it on video. We were not able to. It was just an attempt made.
That wasn't the part of going right.
Oh.
I meant that you have procedures set up so if you record something on the video, everybody knows about it. It goes into the case.
Yes, yes.
Right. So you would assume that if you make a video, it doesn't pop up 7 years later in the middle of the trial, right? That's not the way it's supposed to
Well,
work.
it was still considered an exhibit, so it could, because at that point, it's Exhibit 62, so it's still evidence.
Right, but like these are in boxes and labels and we all knew about them and they all came to this courtroom. This was news.
Typically, they were on a small cassette, so someone obviously put that onto that disc. I'm not aware of when it was put onto that disc, but back in 2016, when we would finish a video, we would label the video with our name, the date, the time that we did the video, and the case information, and then we would secure it not in a box, but in an envelope with the same labeling as that labeling there that you see, and labeled Exhibit 62.
And you would expect that to go to the officers,
Yes.
the detectives.
Yes,
in the case, right?
yes,
And the
That we would
the
have, yes.
prosecution and defense and everybody.
yes. Anyone that needed access to that, yes,
Just like all these other
that's right.
items.
Yes,
So you would agree with me that something went sideways if the first time we're all getting it is today. I'm not crouching at you.
no, yes, yes, that's a fair assumption.
You're saying that when I look at this sometime later on today or tonight, that it will be a completely
Total darkness.
total darkness, black
Yes.
video with nothing on it.
That's right.
That was the
I think you said
sidebar.
you took
That was
photos
what
that
they were
also
talking
were
about during the
basically
sidebar.
black,
Yes, we were not able to capture it, unfortunately. Yes.
which is why we haven't seen those up on the screen, and we have, right?
Yes, probably so. Yes.
Okay, you didn't.
It's just darkness.
And this is probably a dumb question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. There isn't a second video, like you didn't have one when you went in, for example. You didn't have one walking in the
Oh, no.
door, doing when you're doing everything else. Showing everything.
No.
At scenes, the CSU does make videos and did make videos back then, right?
Yes.
So at the time that you were there executing, I know you weren't the one executing the warrant, but you're part of the team.
Yes.
That was not considered a scene worthy of videotaping?
So typically, the videos are done on the initial scene itself. So the very first response location where the actual crime took place, or where they were called initially, those videos are done immediately. So on a homicide scene that we get called out, we will start with scene video, and then we will do our photos. On a search warrant such as this, we typically do not do a video. This video was only done in an attempt to capture the positive blue star reaction. So we went a little bit out of order with that one.
You may not know this, so tell me if this is outside the scope. Did you know that there were 2 warrants and searches at that location on Hyde Avenue?
That part I'm not aware.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. I'm not going to ask you about stuff
Okay.
you don't know. You were only involved in a single search of that residence?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to pivot to,
Pivot.
am I right that there were only 2 locations, I'm going to say locations, 2 locations you went to?
Yes, for myself that night, yes.
And only 2 locations on this case, right?
For me, yes.
For you?
Yes.
I'm only talking about
Yes.
So let's talk about the other location. The other location was a dumpster, and the dumpster was really on it may not be the exact opposite side of town, but it's pretty close.
Pretty close. You're
Pretty
right.
close. It's southwest.
Yes.
When you got to the dumpster, you were not the first people from LMPD on the scene.
That's right.
Do you remember how many people were already there?
If memory serves correctly, there were 3 detectives there. Yes.
And do you know how long they've been there?
I do not.
That's not your job, right? You're not-
No.
Once you arrived, does that make you in charge of the scene, or are other people still in charge of the
They're
scene?
still in charge of the scene.
Okay.
We're an assist unit, so we work at their direction.
Okay. I was trying to give you promotion, I guess.
Oh, thank you.
And how many people from your unit arrived? I know you were there. Were you the only person there?
No, myself and technician Stevenson. She has since retired, but she was my assist that evening.
Is that a normal 2 people kind of?
Typically, if we work a big case, we typically work together so that we can assist one another.
Okay. If that's the case, and tell me if I'm wrong, because I'm not sure. Does that mean one person is doing more of the physical handling, and the other person's maybe memorializing with the camera or video?
Sometimes, but typically we pretty much help each other out. It's an equal job. So
While you're there doing that, do you have the detectives pitch in? Are they doing that too, or are you the only one who's touching?
we are just
Sorry.
us. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Typically, we try to keep fewer hands involved. Typically.
When you arrived at the scene, I shouldn't say scene, at that location, there was no fire going then.
No.
There was no any fire that was there. It was out.
Yes.
It's a dumpster, so one of the issues for you is you're not sure what items could have been in there before that have nothing to do with you. I couldn't tell that looked sort of like entry value and which did not.
That's right.
And you were also getting some input from the detectives there. as
Majority
well.
of the input.
Majority,
yes.
okay. So when you say majority, you mean that they're telling you that item matters. I don't think that item does. I'm not trying to, you tell me, is that right or is that wrong?
We were kind of bouncing ideas off of one another. Again, we were going by what we could see visibly with the naked eye. If something appeared to be blood, we really honed in on that. And then burnt items that appeared to be heavily damaged or that were close in proximity to one another that looked like they had all been dumped together. That's kind of what we were looking at, if that helps.
Okay. But an item that had previously been in that dumpster, if there was a fire, would still be burned.
True. Yes, that's true.
Okay.
Some of the things like the latex glove and the pillow, they had kind of meshed together. Some of the things you could tell that were inside that tote, they may have had a little bit of blue plastic still on them. Again, we were working at their direction, so kind of going by what they instructed.
Okay. And as you were taking items out, you're also photographing them, and we saw a whole bunch of photos.
Yes.
All right. For the most part, unless something, I think that one was like stuck, just for the most part, everything that is evidence-worthy gets its own photo, right?
Yes. Yes.
Unless they're stuck together or
Yes.
something like that.
Yes.
So we saw a whole bunch. I don't know. I think it was, my math is right, 34 photos from the
I
dumpster.
believe so.
Does that sound right? Okay. And there wasn't anything that didn't get photoed, right? That's a terrible sentence. Everything got photoed.
Yes,
Photographed.
yes.
There is no photo of a car seat.
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, I mean, you just saw the
Yeah,
photos,
no,
right?
yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
And also, you have some, I mean, we all don't have perfect recall from 7 years ago, but you remember the event, right? And the reason there's no photo of a big old car seat is because when you got there, as far as what you saw, you didn't see a car seat.
That's right.
If you had seen a car seat, you certainly would have taken a picture
Yes,
of it.
that's right.
If you had taken a car seat into evidence, you would have
Packaged it.
would have packaged it.
Yes.
Right? In fact, something as big as that requires a whole lot of extra packaging and making sure, okay, because you have procedures for big items, right?
Yes. Yes.
So anything like that, you certainly would have taken a photo of, and you would remember probably.
Yes.
And you're sitting here under oath today, and you're saying no car seat.
No car seat.
So any car seat that was there would have been gone before you arrived.
Yes. I
Okay.
did not document or collect a car seat.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Right, Direct?
Yes, just circle back to the video.
Okay.
On that, back in 2016, you took the video, correct?
Yes.
And you're saying it was on a cassette?
Yes.
Was that, like, did you have a video camera?
So we had handheld camcorders that actually still used the small cassette tapes at that time. They
So
were
did-
very tiny.
When you got, and were you able to review it on scene?
No, no. I mean, we could see
So
the
you could
screen itself that it was coming up black. So, but we didn't actually go back and replay anything at that time.
But you could see as it was filming?
Yes.
As it was-
Yes.
And then you took the cassette back with you, and what did you do with it?
Again, once we get it back to the office, it becomes an exhibit. So we then would label the exterior of the tape with the case number, the date, our initials, and the exhibit number that we've assigned, and the description, which was scene video, which then became Exhibit 62.
Exhibit 62 listed on the CSU.
Yes.
Is that the CSU report that we've all been talking about?
Yes.
So everybody's known that it was listed in the report, even though we didn't have a copy.
Yes, it's in my report.
So, hold on, let me let the light come on. Maybe that's it. All right.
That's probably it.
Okay, so I'm gonna just hit play.
Again, in order to capture the results for the Blue Star reaction, it needs to be total blackness. That's why you see this dark
I
video.
remember during Letitia Stokes trial, they had to
Yeah,
come
we're
back
over
at
there.
nighttime to take the video of the Blue Star just so that it would be totally black.
And so, is this just gonna be another 8 minutes of this?
Yes,
Okay.
of us just trying to capture the results. Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, just for the record, can we see the numbers moving 44, 45?
Yes. No.
Is there ever audio with,
No.
with CSU, CJUs?
No.
All right, thank you. I'm going to stop this so we can turn the lights back on.
Didn't they? This is what they had the sidebar
Um,
about.
Has CSU made any changes to improve video
Yes.
video of Blue Star?
Yes. Typically, we do not capture positive reactions of Blue Star on video. We just attempted that evening to see if we could finagle it in a way that it might work, and it did not work. It was not successful, obviously. That was just an attempt that we made to try to capture those positive results.
So
so
why
you
are we
went out now
wasting
to
the
see-
time with
We would
that?
not video it.
You would video
No.
it all.
We have new cameras. We would photograph
Is there a better way to photograph now?
with our new cameras. Yes.
Why is that
Seems-
relevant to this
What's
crime?
different about those
They're just
cameras?
updated. It's just an updated camera, basically.
No further questions, thank you.
Okay, another witness done.
Due to the
Oh, or not.
Yeah, that was my plan, actually. Ms. Kimmer, you are free to go, but you're what's called subject to recall, which means that if something arises and we need to call you back to ask questions about the video, that might occur. So you cannot be in the courtroom. You might not have been anyway, but for the
Wasn't,
remainder of
okay.
the trial, you cannot be in the courtroom. But for now, you're free to go.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
I do like this judge.
You're fine.
Does anybody need a break?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so here's the afternoon
Okay.
break.
Oh, you don't? Okay, just 1 second.
I'm starving like Marvin. Pardon me. I'm having a peanut butter and honey sandwich. I need to go grocery shopping because this is too sticky. There he is. Boy, does he give me the creeps. Are they taking a break? All right. We're on the home stretch now, people. All right. So, again, this is day 2 of the Brice Rhodes trial. Day 3 of Crime Spies. Road to 500 subscribers. Thank you for joining me. And Poppy, she's actually sleeping right now. So, this is this afternoon's testimony after the afternoon break. This has been a long day. And he had a pocket square, a yellow, I believe it was paisley silk pocket square. This morning, I don't recall that big giant Band-Aid behind his head. He has, the reason I used that picture in the thumbnail was because he is quite the a-hole. He had to wear that kind of mask because he was spitting on his attorney at one point. He's accused. We read an article this morning when we did the short 20-minute overview. He's accused one of the...
That's not, well, that might just be a local practice thing, but that's not how anybody in Louisville would read that. They would read it as
He accused one of the other...
It's this many years, if not, it's this many years, but it's
I
up
think
to
it
the
was
judges
judges of being like a KKK member.
Well, not right. Not right. Well, he did.
He went into custody.
I think
for
that's
years
just a
as
local
juvenile.
custom thing. But that is typically how it would read in Louisville if they were objecting and did object.
I just can't pronounce that.
They can. The court doesn't have to follow it, but they can.
Louisville.
Um,
I think it's even more marbly than that.
I'm not trying to make a big issue of this, Judge.
yeah, I mean, I just think it's safer to just say, just let them introduce it so we aren't creating an issue later.
So can I just refer back to the fact that there is a plea agreement? I'll let them do what they want to do, and then at some point redirect. I'll get into the terms.
See, the last couple
You
of
don't have a
trials I've
problem with them
covered,
saying that there
they've
is a plea
cut
agreement
out
at
all
'Cause then it kind of
this,
looks like they're trying to hide it or something, if not.
all this
Like they go
debating.
through a whole line of questioning and don't even mention there's a plea agreement, and then you bring it out, it looks like they're trying to hide it.
Anything outside of the
Gotcha.
jury, they've not let
Okay,
air.
so yes, I will let you ask about the existence of a plea agreement, but no further details which the
Ooh.
defense may bring out. And if you object to that procedure too, you can say so for the record.
So the 3 other
Now.
people that were involved
Okay,
with the
thank you.
deaths of these
All right,
2
we're
young
ready for the
brothers,
jury. Great.
now the jury's coming in. They all received plea agreements in exchange for their testimony against him. So far, the testimony has been a couple officers on the first shooting, Christopher Jones, on May the 4th. And then today's testimony started with the sister of that victim, and then followed by the rest of the testimony has been pertaining to these 2 brothers who were 14 and 16 respectively. 3 weeks later, they had witnessed the first victim's shooting. 3 weeks later, the defendant, along with 3 other people, as I mentioned earlier, tortured them, and then after they were...
As you all might have noticed, there are times during trial when we're dealing with like what's going to come next and how things are going to go. I want to just note that if you see court staff or me or even the attorneys using their phones, that's what we are doing. You know, we're not just goofing off or anything, but we need to be able to take care of business while we're in court as well. Ms. Jones-Brown, are you ready to call your next witness?
I'll be handling this witness, Your Honor.
Oh, Mr. Cunningham, I'm sorry.
I do have one more issue that I'd
Okay,
like to.
sure.
Another sidebar. Oh, there's only an hour and a half left. Good. So it's like an hour for us. Like I said, we're on the home stretch now.
How old are you?
Oops. So if you're just tuning in, I'm so sorry. I haven't eaten all day. I'm trying to eat a peanut butter and honey sandwich. The lower left-hand corner is just some kind of bullet points, background information on this case. There are 3 other people that were involved in the deaths of these brothers that are supposed to testify.
Mr. Carter, as best you can, I need you to raise your right hand.
I think this is one of them.
Thank you. You can have a seat.
Good afternoon. Can you introduce yourself to the jury?
My name's Anwan Carter.
Yeah.
And how old are you, Anna?
Anwan
Where
Carter,
do you live these days?
Jacory Taylor, and Tieran
Were
Coleman.
you here in town in 2016?
I understand. If you could just speak just a little bit louder.
And that's, may I approach, Your Honor?
You may. Yeah, you want to move the microphone. Thank you, Mr. Cunningham.
So, you know what we're here to discuss. Let's talk a little bit about how you know different people here. How do you know Jacory?
Good.
And
So Jacory
All
is
very
his
close.
cousin.
what sorts of things would you do with Jacory when you were here?
Hang out. We used to go find different females to hang out with.
Anything else you all do together?
We used to
No, sorry, you got to speak up so they can hear
It's
you.
mumbling.
hang out. We used to hang out. We used to smoke. We used to.
I still can't hear you, and if I can't hear you, no one else can.
We used to play sports. We used to find different females to hook up with.
And did you all grow up together? Did you know him for a long time?
Yes.
And what was his life like?
Yeah. He was homeless for a while.
And so, as a result of his homelessness, how would he get by? What sorts of things would he do?
Yeah, we used to steal out of people's cars. We used to sleep over at a friend's house.
And what about you? Did you have people to live with here in town?
Yes.
So, how old were you in 2016?
15.
So he's
When you
15.
were 15,
God.
do you remember how much you weighed or how tall you were?
I was about 120 pounds.
So, how did you meet Larry?
At school.
And did you meet Maurice at school as well?
Yes.
And what was your relationship with them?
We're the same as Corey. We used to go link up with different females. We used to hang out.
Was there anybody in town that you were closer to than the 3 of them?
No.
And do you recognize Mr. Rhodes in the courtroom?
Yes.
And what did he go by as far as you know?
Rambo.
And how did you meet Rambo?
Maurice and Larry.
And before we get
Rambo
to,
is the defendant.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that response. Can you repeat that, please?
So
That's
Maurice
his
and Larry.
rapper name.
how long, when we get into May of 2016, how long had you known Rambo for?
Couple weeks, 2-3 weeks, a month.
So how many times had you met him before the night of the first shooting?
I don't know. A couple.
So tell the jury, how did the idea of a shooting happen?
We was in somebody's backyard. We was all smoking.
And you must lay down a little bit. Who's we?
Me, Corey, him, Maurice and Larry.
Okay. And what happened?
We was all smoking. He said that somebody got some money in their head and we just need a gun.
That's what Brice said.
We need a gun.
And just to spell it out, what does that mean? They have a price on their head and we just need a gun.
Somebody get paid to kill somebody. We just need a gun.
Now, at this time, do you know approximately how old Rambo was? Was he older than you guys?
Yeah, he's way older than us.
I'm sorry?
He's way older than us.
Was he bigger than you all?
I think he was 10 years older.
Was
Because if
the
he
one that
was
coming up with
15,
the
I
ideas?
think
Yeah.
The defendant was
So-
25.
How old
Judge
were
objection, that calls for speculation.
I'll allow it. Overruled.
Maurice and Larry then? Do you know?
14 and
15.
16.
Around my age.
Okay. So when he first proposes this idea to you all, do you think he was serious?
Mhm.
When did you decide that he was serious?
The night we actually did it.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that. When what?
That night we
The night we
actually
actually
did it.
Thank you.
So
Disgusting.
how was a gun acquired?
Corey bought the gun.
And when Corey bought the gun, did he know what did everybody know what the purpose for the gun was, or was it just a coincidence?
Oh, so this
Everything was
is
full.
okay. So this is detailing the
Alright.
very first victims.
Had you ever done
shooting
anything like this before?
Christopher Jones.
Were you nervous about it? What was your feeling about these?
I wish I wanted to get paid, but then I'm on the fence. It could have went either way. Either or.
At that time, what did you think would have happened if you would have backed out? Did you think about that? Okay. So,
Judge, was there a response to that question?
You nodded your head no, correct?
If you want me to turn
So,
the speed down,
let's get to the
because I have it at
day in May.
1.25.
You all get together. How did you first get in touch with the group that day?
We had like me and Corey. He had went over his grandmother's house. While my Maurice and Larry, they was at home. So then when we was gonna get dropped back off over Maurice and Larry's house, they was already gone.
Okay. How did you get around in those days?
We used to walk. We used to catch rides. People used to drop us off. Bikes, everything.
And
Where were your
at that time,
parents?
did Rambo have a car? Did you have a car?
I didn't have a car of my own.
So who was it that drove you around that night?
Q.
Q. And how do you know Q?
Who's Q?
Q's Corey's cousin.
So
Q is Corey's cousin. Jacory Taylor cousin.
and we're talking about two incidents.
I need a flow chart
so
for all
it's
these
easy to get
people.
confused. Talking about the first incident, there was a night where you had a truck, the night of the hit, right?
Yes, yeah. I had stole a truck.
And was that in order to carry this out, or you were just driving a stolen truck?
I just had a stolen truck.
Okay. So what was the plan for that night?
At night we was supposed to we was in the backyard again. And we all linked up. And we went from the south to the west.
And how did you all know where to go?
I was just following behind.
Okay. So you're following a car. What's the car that you're following?
It's a light blue Mazda, I think.
Okay. And who was in that car?
Larry, Maurice, Brice, and Corey.
And where was everybody seated in the car?
So Maurice was driving. Larry in the passenger seat. Brice in the behind Maurice, and Corey on the other side.
And who had the gun?
Brice.
And who knew?
So they
who
were
the target
four in the
was?
car when they went to go shoot this Christopher.
I'm going to sustain that.
How did you all know where to go?
I was just following behind.
Boy.
So how long did you all drive around?
30, 45 minutes.
And did anything eventful happen during that time? So
Besides murder.
besides what?
Besides murder. Besides somebody getting shot.
Yeah. Okay. So you're driving along. The car in front of you stops around 41st Street.
Something like that.
Stops somewhere in that area.
Sure.
We're gonna approach. So this guy is one of the people involved in these 3 homicides, and in exchange
car in
for
front of you
a
stopped.
sweetheart deal has to testify against the
And
defendant.
what happens?
I heard somebody say, "You got the street, bitch."
I'm sorry, but we got to have you enunciate clearly so everybody can hear. What was it that happened?
And I heard somebody say, "Get out the street, bitch," and the shot went off.
Who was the somebody that said that?
Brice.
Could you see Brice at that time?
I didn't see him, but I knew where he was positioned at.
Sorry, please repeat.
I didn't see him, but I knew where he was positioned at.
And you heard or saw the gun go off?
Saw it.
Was it inside of the car or outside of the car?
It's like his arm was dangling out the car.
And who was he shooting at?
Somebody in the street.
Had you ever seen that person before?
No.
Did you know anything about that person?
No.
Did that person talk or engage anybody?
That I know of.
Was he facing the car or facing away from the car?
He's facing the car.
And after the gunshot, what happened?
Oh no, 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 not the spins. Not the spins. I think my hat might be finally done. God, what is going on? You know, these long live streams. God, we're almost finished. I think I need a new router. It says it's still connected. God. The spins. Please hold a minute. Again. If it's not one thing, it's something else. It's been a while since, oh, it's right here. It's been a while since I've done a trial. Oh, that rhymes. I forget. This is why I don't do these long ones anymore. I have to find someone else. Wonder if it's because it's... Oh, then it just popped up. Damn it. And I'm getting tired. I got up at like 4:35. 4:30 or 5-ish. And it's now 7:30. Now I gotta find where we were. Hold on a moment.
Does the car in front of you stop?
Yeah, stop.
Okay, we were past this part.
See, out the car.
And where did you go that night?
So went back to Maurice Larry's house.
See, he shot the gun more. Was he facing the car or facing? And who was he shooting at?
Somebody in the street.
We were right around
Had you
here.
ever seen that person before?
No.
Did you know anything about that person?
No.
We're on the home
Did
stretch.
that person talk or engage anybody?
That I know of.
Was he facing the car or facing away from the car?
He's facing the car.
And after the gunshot, what happened?
Shit, we peeled off. Then we had like 5 to 8 houses down, and he shot somebody's house.
See, he shot the gun more.
Yeah.
And what did you do?
Just driving.
Not quite.
Just continue
I
to follow.
got far more to go. I think I used too small of a
And
hook.
where did you go that night?
Went back to Maurice and Larry's house.
Was everybody at Maurice and Larry's? What'd you all talk about?
Good.
Do people talk about the shooting?
No.
Why not?
That ain't how I talk. That ain't how I get my problems out. That ain't how I express my problems.
So you don't talk about stuff like that after it happens?
Just let it go.
Why do you not talk about it?
Just
Oh no, not again. I'm not going to do another live stream tonight if this doesn't resolve itself. I've got four green bars. You know what I'm going to do? I think
let it
I'm...
go. Just
Oh,
Did you expect to get something as a result of participating?
4
in
green
this?
bars. I've only got a
Yeah, well,
0.1% dropped frames rate
And
in
how
2
is that supposed to
hours.
happen?
so you're supposed to break us off.
And who was supposed to break it off?
Right.
How was that going to happen?
We didn't get that far. I just think he's supposed to break us off. He's supposed to get the gun. He's supposed to break us off.
And when you say break us off, you mean share the money?
Share the money.
Come on up.
Another sidebar. We've got a keyboard warrior.
Give anybody? Did he end up giving anybody?
I wonder if it's because I'm using that YouTube app and not the browser YouTube. I don't know. I
So
think
did he
I need
give
a new
anybody-
router.
Did he end up giving anybody any money as a result of that?
It's always something.
And how do people feel about that? How did you feel about that?
So they didn't care.
You didn't care that you didn't get paid?
So I didn't think he got paid. So.
Were other people upset about not getting paid?
Objection. That's speculation.
If you know, you can answer that.
I don't know.
Okay. What did you end up doing with your? Did you do anything with your truck that night?
We burned it.
And why did you burn it?
He said in case it was on like camera or something.
And who's he?
Right.
And so how did you burn the truck?
We put gas in it. And then on fire.
Were you ever around? There was a phone call that you overheard between the boy's mom and the defendant, right? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And you could hear. What could you hear? Where were you?
So it was over.
Objection, hearsay.
What was the question?
I'm asking where he was when he overheard this phone call.
What did you overhear?
Okay, don't say what somebody else said. If you want to re-ask the question.
Who was talking on the phone?
So it was Larry and Maurice's mom and Brice.
It was who and Brice?
Larry and Maurice's mom.
Larry and Maurice's
Larry
mother?
and
Okay,
Maurice's
thank you.
mom.
And what was the tone of the conversation?
It was about the shooting.
So they were talking about the
And
shooting
when did this conversation happen?
before.
Yeah. Whenever Maurice had told her about it.
Was she angry?
Objection.
You don't want to come up?
Boy, I tell you, those defense attorneys pretty liberal with their objections. Look at this piece of shit. With his Band-Aid on his head. So
All right.
he's
So now
also, if you are watching, he has been deemed incompetent to be too incompetent to be eligible for the death penalty. In my opinion, I don't understand what that is. Because if he's incompetent for the death penalty, but he committed the murder, I mean, how does that? I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying anymore.
let's jump forward to the night that you were talking about on the 24th. So on the 21st, late night, how were you traveling around that night? The truck's been burnt. How were you traveling around?
So getting dropped off
Okay. And so who was dropping you off? And
on the 21st. I don't remember.
okay. Earlier, when we were confused about which night we were talking about, you said that Q was driving you around.
Yeah.
So that's the night that we're talking about.
Okay, yeah, Q dropped me off.
Okay. So Q is dropping you off. Who's with you?
So me and Corey
And where does Q drop you off?
dropped us off over his house.
Brice Rhodes' house. Had you been anywhere together before his house?
Yeah.
Where'd you go to?
So we went over, first went over Maurice and Larry's house. They was already gone.
How did you know they were gone?
So we walked in the house.
And they
They was already gone.
weren't there.
So we called them
Okay. So where'd you guys get dropped off at?
over his house.
Over at his house? Had you been to his house before?
Yeah.
Who else? What time of day or night is it?
So it's nighttime.
Nighttime? Who's at the house?
So it's what? Larry, Maurice, me, Corey, him, and like 3 other people.
All right. Who are the other folks that are there?
I don't know. Tyron.
Okay.
I don't know.
You've explained the people that you know that were there. Had you met Tyron before?
For that night.
Just then. And there was another person there that you didn't know?
No.
And you don't know who they are now? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me what was going on that night?
So we was all smoking, drinking. And you feel me? Larry and Maurice got into an argument. Not Larry and Maurice, but Larry and Corey got into an argument.
Was it common for people to get into arguments when you all were hanging out?
Yeah.
And what happened with this argument?
So Maurice grabbed a knife.
Okay. So Maurice picked up a knife. Did he wave it at Corey?
And I can see he waved at him.
Okay, so the little thing that's going kind of shuffling through the timeline on the lower left-hand corner of the screen, one of them points out that there was some kind of altercation the night of the 21st, which he is building up to what happened now.
So he picked it up in an aggressive manner.
And what happened next?
So he took it from him and he smacked him.
You say he, do you mean Brice Rhodes?
Brice took it from him and he smacked him.
How did he
I'm
take a
going to
knife
slow
from him?
this down.
He went looking up with the knife anyways.
And
My
what-
uncle,
Can you describe the knife?
It was like a
my uncle was from Lexington, or lived in Lexington, Kentucky, and when he would come back up here, no one could understand him. Of course, we've got the Scandinavian
combat knife.
accent.
And what did Brice do after he took the knife?
he's like he gonna violate him.
Okay. Brice is going to violate Maurice. And can you explain in general terms, what does it mean to violate somebody? What's that term mean?
Really means like inflict pain. Like he could have just hit him in the chest. He could have did a range of things.
It's like a disciplining of the person.
Yeah.
So did that alarm Maurice? How did Maurice respond?
He was gonna go with it. He thought it was just gonna be a punch in the chest.
And why would he go along with it?
That's big homie.
I'm sorry?
That's his big homie.
So is there a time where you
I just want to make sure I'm understanding. Did you say because he's
May we
big?
approach?
Yes.
I think he said because he's a big homie.
separate from Maurice? All
So-
right.
Exchange
is
for
there
this
Is there a
testimony,
time where
he got a deal.
people in the house separate from Maurice.
Yeah. We put both of them in the bathroom and we took a vote.
Both who?
Larry and Maurice.
They're in the bathroom.
So
And
they
where are you
separated them.
guys?
Living room.
And what happens in the living room?
We took a vote.
What's this vote on?
If they should die or not.
If they should die or
Oh
not?
my God.
Who's calling the vote?
Brice.
What was your vote?
I'm the one that said no. I just said yeah.
And did your vote win?
Hmm?
Did your vote win?
Apparently not.
Did you think about what would have happened to you if you tried to leave at that point in time?
I ain't had nowhere to go. He lived too far out.
They lived too far out.
So what happens after the vote's taken? What happens to Maurice?
He put a sock in his mouth, tied his hands behind his back, and put a hat over his head.
And where did he do this?
In the living room.
Listen. Don't listen.
And
It's
what
too
happened
much.
after that?
He started hitting him in his chest at first.
With an item, with his fist? How was he hitting him?
We hit him in the chest with a fist first, then like 3-4 times. And then Tyron passed him the knife. Then he started stabbing him.
So Tyrion handed him the knife. Was he making a noise?
He couldn't. He had the sock in his mouth.
Was he trying to make noise?
Yeah.
God.
How many times did Brice Rhodes stab him?
So no,
Where did he stab him?
the torso out up here.
The medical
Was he
examiner has not
Standing
testified
up,
yet.
or was he on his knees?
He was on his knees,
And he stabbed him in the chest.
chest, stomach, around there in the general area.
In the what area?
In his chest, in his stomach, on his torso.
Did he stab him other places?
I don't know.
How long?
Supposedly it was in his,
How long did this?
you know,
go
southern
on for?
region.
Until he stopped breathing.
God.
Do you have any idea the time?
I don't know.
Was there a lot of blood?
Meanwhile, the other brother is in the other room
Where
waiting
was the
for his
blood
turn.
In the carpet and sheets.
Were the sheets set out to catch the blood?
Yeah, sheets was really there to move him.
To move them when they're gone.
Who got the sheets?
Price.
And where did he
Freaking
put them?
freak. Freakosaurus Rex.
Shit, like we had dragged Maurice by the door, and then bring Larry out.
So
Now
they
these
drug
guys are
Maurice by the door
Best
and then
friends,
went and
right?
got the brother Larry.
What do you?
Oh my God.
What's running through your mind?
Make sure I get out.
What's that?
I gotta make sure I get out. Try to save somebody else. Make sure I'm safe.
I didn't understand that.
And what would have stopped you from getting out?
Probably if I ain't go along with it,
What would have happened?
probably been with him. Probably same situation.
So he felt like he had to go
Fate.
along with it or he'd be dead too.
So
Probably a
they
good.
bring Larry out of the bathroom. Does he have? When does he get the sock?
He already been like he had the belt, he had a hat, he got the sock. He had the sock when it was his turn.
Okay, when you say he had the belt, what do you mean?
His hands was already tied behind his back. He had a hat over his eyes, so he couldn't see.
Couldn't
He had
see
a
his
sock
dead
in his
brother, but he
mouth.
probably.
So he got the sock when it was his turn.
God. This is
he making noises?
horrifying.
That's it. He started making noises when he started getting stabbed.
Oh, God.
Was he on his knees?
Yeah.
Did he know what had happened to his brother?
No.
Was
You'd think
he?
he'd hear it.
Was there blood in the spot that he was at?
Yeah.
But he probably couldn't see because he had the hat over his head.
Did he respond to that?
Yeah, he started like trying to kick everything off, get his hands intact, get his hands free and stuff.
Was his brother making any noise at that point?
Brother already did.
His brother's already dead.
So how many times did he get stabbed?
I don't know. A lot.
Who was stabbing him?
Shit, he stabbed him till he was dead.
Brice did?
Yeah. Then he passed the knife around.
Then he passed
Who
the
did he
knife
pass
around.
the knife to?
She passed it to me.
Why'd he pass you the knife? They're both dead, right?
Yeah, both dead, but shit, we all, he said, so we all gonna be in it. So it's on all of us now.
So you would participate?
Yeah.
So what did you have to do with the knife?
I had to stab him,
Who'd you stab?
Larry,
How many times did you stab Larry?
like 3.
What'd you do with the knife?
He
Passed it
actually,
back to him.
this is like
What'd
the
he do with
first.
the knife?
Passed it to somebody else.
Who was the next person up?
I don't remember.
That's the first time he looked down.
Where was Jacory?
Corey was right there with him. Corey's in there.
Was Jacory handed the knife?
Yeah.
So
Before
does
or
he?
after they were both
Where's
dead?
Jesus Enrique Rosas to tell us? Is this like
Do you know what
remorse?
he did with the knife?
He stabbed him a few times.
Who'd he stab?
Larry.
God.
All right. What's the next thing that happens?
We put him in totes. You feel me? Took him and, like with him, Rice, Tyron, and somebody else. You feel me? They were supposed to take him to like a abandoned house and burn the bando.
The 3 older guys were?
Yeah. They're supposed to take it to a abandoned house and burn it.
And when you say totes, what most people know, but what's a tote?
Like a Rubbermaid.
The little thing that you put clothes in.
Like a suitcase?
No, not no suitcase. It's like a
I've got one right there with all my jewelry stuff in it. I'm gonna work on it.
like little things that you put the like Christmas stuff in.
I was just gonna say Christmas
Ben?
stuff.
Yeah, Ben.
So, the bodies got put in a bin. The plan is the 3 of them are going to go get rid of the bodies. Do you help carry the bin? How do the bins get down?
We all helped take it to the car.
And which car was it you took them to?
To Sky Blue Mazda.
And did you help
One
load
was in the
bins
back
into
seat, one was in
into
the
car?
trunk.
Did you see the inside of the car?
Yeah.
Do you remember? Was it a normal looking car?
It was a regular car.
So the 3 of them are going to go do this. What are you and your cousin supposed to do?
Sit back, clean the blood up. Scrape the blood off the car.
Oh, and they had to do the mother's
And
dishes.
how was it decided that that's what the 2 of you were going to do?
There wasn't no room in the car.
Did someone tell you to do that?
Yeah.
So they left. You're up in his living room. Did you think about leaving?
No.
Why?
Because I knew he was gonna drop us off eventually.
So what was the process for cleaning up?
So we had some bleach. We just scrubbing the floor.
Okay, so hydrogen peroxide in an iron actually gets rid of blood,
How long did it take you to do this?
and it doesn't smell like bleach
We went from
or ruin the
night to
fabric.
next morning. He didn't go to sleep.
So you worked through the night cleaning it up? And how long after did Brice come back to the house?
Yeah.
How long was he gone for?
He's gone for a while.
Did he say anything about what had happened? Did he help you clean up?
So if
Once
this
you
is
all
like a
had
condo or an apartment,
The house cleaned up.
wasn't there like
What's the next thing that
witnesses?
happens? What do
Or
you
is
do?
this like an everyday thing that
We
happens?
took it to various dumpsters.
God.
Okay, so you hopped in a car. Which car did you hop in?
In the blue one.
And where'd you put the stuff?
Stuff in, what you mean we put the stuff?
So the stuff you cleaned up, you put it in. How'd you carry it out of the apartment?
Put it in the bag.
And then the bags, you put them in the car,
Like the trunk.
in the trunk area. And one of you all was in the front seat. Where were you?
Front.
And then did somebody sit in the back seat?
Corey.
So where'd you go in the car? And who's driving the car?
Brice driving the car.
All right. And where do you go to?
We went to like different dumpsters and set the dumpsters on fire.
Why different dumpsters?
Trying to be
Spread
clever, I
evidence.
suppose.
So that seemed like, it seemed like spreading the evidence was a good idea at the time.
I was just in the car.
So did you end up, so stuff gets dropped off, gets burnt. How was the stuff set on fire?
We put some gas in the dumpster, lit it on fire.
And then drove off? Where'd you go that night?
And I went to Park Hill.
And what was going on in Park Hill? Where'd you go?
Shopping train.
They went
sorry?
shopping.
And so we was over. So I was trying to trade shoes.
Okay. What, were you wearing the same clothes that you had on earlier in the day?
Yeah.
And so you're changing out of those clothes? Who's giving you clothes?
I know people.
I know people, he said.
And did you end up with any items that belonged to either Maurice or Larry at the end of that night?
Yeah, I had some shoes and I had the phone.
Okay. Whose phone did you have?
And Maurice.
And why'd you have Maurice's phone?
So I picked it up
Where'd you pick the phone up?
at the house.
And were you able to use that phone?
Yeah.
What time was it when you were done for the night, when you were back? Was it all through that Saturday? Was it, or all through that day? Was it late afternoon now, or was it nighttime?
It's like late afternoon.
And did that phone ever ring?
Yeah.
It did? And who was on it?
Different people. I was using the phone. I'm calling people.
Was there anyone related to Maurice or Larry that called you on that number?
Yeah, his mama called.
Mama called.
And who did she want?
She was asking where they was at.
What'd you tell her?
They was in the store.
And what'd she say to that?
She said, I'm calling.
He
Were
was
you-
in a
Were you
store.
worried about what she was going to think at that point? So what'd you do with the phone?
She kept using it.
And then later on that day, did you get a visit from somebody?
Yeah, U.S. Marshals.
And what happened?
She got booked. They took me in for questioning.
What were you thinking when that happened?
My goose is cooked.
And had you not thought about the phone might be traceable?
That's before I even
I don't
even
know.
knew
He
it.
was only
You
15.
didn't know it. Because how old were you then?
15.
Okay.
Holy
So that
shit.
night, do you talk to police?
Yeah.
And do you end up telling them what you've told the jury?
Yeah.
And
Are we
do
going to
you
see
have a-
interrogation
do
videos?
you have a plea agreement with the police that night, or is that something that happens later?
So it happened later.
So you told what happened before you had any sort of deal?
Yeah.
So after you dropped, after you did the cleanup, after you went to the dumpsters, after you set the bags of stuff on fire, what'd you all notice about the car?
Shit. It had blood in the back seat.
And so how was that handled?
Cut the back seat out.
And who cut the back seat out?
Maurice.
What did he do with the back seat?
Well,
after he
that's not
cut it
going to
out?
raise any
We
suspicion.
put it in the back of somebody's garage.
Was it somebody you knew?
In the purse.
Is it somebody that he knew?
I don't know.
I don't have any further questions.
You'll approach.
Another approach. We're on the really home stretch now. Look at you, you piece of shit. Mr. Band-Aid Head.
Maurice's death, correct? Murder.
Pull it down a little.
Where's his mother?
Mr.
That's what I
Carter,
want to know.
You gave an interview on May 24th, 2016, 2 days after Larry and Maurice's death, correct? And you sat down at the police station with Detective Tonelli. Do you remember that?
Wonder how bad he smells.
Yeah, I remember.
Thank you. If you could give an oral answer where the jury could hear you, please. And you were alone during that interview. Is that correct?
Yes.
I didn't see your parents there, but the detective was questioning you, right?
Yeah.
Did you ask for an attorney at any point?
Yes.
But did they keep questioning you?
He left. And then he still came back and questioned me. He without an attorney.
And you talked to the police several times that I can tell, right? And man, you told a lot of lies. Didn't you?
I'm going to sustain the objection. Please refrain from testifying.
I'm asking if he told a lot of lies.
Right, but before that, you made a statement, and I'm asking you not to do that
Yes, ma'am.
again.
I'll be glad to. Did you tell a lot of lies to the police?
Yeah.
Thank you. You even lied about knowing Brice, right? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Isn't it true that you first told Detective Tonelli that I promise I'm telling you everything, but I don't know Brice, and I've never been in a car with him. Did you say that?
I don't know. Not to my knowledge.
If I told you that I have a transcript, word for word, of what you said in that interview, would you believe that you had said that?
And we approach her on.
You know?
Approach again. Keyboard warriors back.
Is that correct? Did you tell Detective Tonelli that you hadn't heard anything or didn't know anything about Maurice and Larry's death? At first?
Yeah.
And then later, you changed your mind. Is that correct? At some point, you said I think you just said this, you were speaking to a detective and a different one came in? Is that what you said, Mr. Carter?
So no.
Did you, at some point, when you first spoke to Detective Tonelli, did you at some point stop speaking to him?
Yeah, and I asked my attorney.
Okay, when you asked for your attorney. And then at some point after that, did you start speaking to him again? And was that an hour and a half later?
I don't know. I don't know exact time. It was the same night though.
Do you remember promising this officer who was speaking to you now that you would be telling the truth?
Huh?
When you started talking to the police again for the second time, do you remember telling them, I'm telling you the truth?
I don't know. Probably.
You told, is it true that you told Officer Tonelli, or whichever officer you were talking to at that time, that Larry and Maurice stole money from Brice's closet? Do you remember saying that to the officer?
Could you please answer out loud, yes or no?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
Oh man, not the spins again. God. We're so close to the end. Okay, if I can't get this back. OBS says we're still going.
Seen it.
Oh,
If I were
there
to
he
show
is.
you a copy of the interview, do you think you would remember saying that?
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember me saying it. But I probably said it.
But what?
I probably said it. I don't remember me saying it.
Did you tell the detective at that point that you weren't close to Rambo?
Yeah.
Did you tell the detective that Rambo didn't hang out with Maurice and Larry?
Mhm.
Do you remember telling Officer Tonelli that you were not involved in the crime?
Yeah.
Did you answer? Yes.
Well, he was 15 years old. Of course, he's going to lie.
Eventually, you changed your story again for a third time, correct? And at that point, did you admit to killing Maurice and Larry?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I don't know.
Okay, so for those
Mr.
of you
Carter, do
who
you
have
remember-
kids,
During the interview, Officer Tonelli telling you that Rambo was throwing you under the bus. And at that point, could you answer out loud? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it became Rambo this and Rambo that. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And now you tell the detective that Rambo stabbed Maurice and Larry. And that you participated, but he made you do it. Right?
Yeah.
Yes. You also told the detectives that Rambo had shot Christopher Jones, correct?
maybe one more row.
But then, at some point, the officer tells you, actually, let me back up. You didn't offer the information about, or you didn't offer any information about the 41st Street shooting, and I'm referring to the murder of Christopher Jones, until Detective Tonelli said, Rambo's blaming you for that, too. Is that correct?
Yeah.
You remember telling the officers that you saw Ja'Cory Taylor buy the gun?
I ain't see him buy the gun. I know he bought the gun though.
How do you know?
Shit, he don't know. He don't know has money.
Were you present when the gun was bought?
No. I was there, but I didn't see him get it.
How did you know he got it?
Because it was in his pocket. He the one that's told it.
1 minute
It was
he
in
doesn't
Jacory's
have
pocket.
it, the
Yeah,
next
he
minute
told
he
it.
has it.
Do you know where he got the gun?
Mm-mm.
You said you were present. Where were you?
We was all over. We was in somebody's trailer park.
Trailer park.
Mr. Carter, do you remember telling law enforcement that Brice bought the gun? That Jacory bought the gun while you were there in the home of Larry and Maurice's mother?
I don't remember.
And then today, you've come to court and told this jury something different again. Is that correct?
Object to one question, Your Honor.
What's the issue with the form?
What is, it's not a specific question. What is he saying that's different?
Have you
What is
told,
she referencing?
You want to try to rephrase it?
I will rephrase. Have you told this jury anything today that you didn't tell Detective Tonelli before?
Not to my knowledge.
Not to my knowledge.
Isn't it true that you told Detective Tonelli that you stabbed Maurice 3 times?
You just said that earlier in testimony.
Probably.
And you stabbed him in his side?
After
Did
he
you
was
tell that
dead.
to Detective Tonelli?
Probably.
And did you also tell Detective Tonelli that Jacory stabbed Larry?
Probably.
And today, you told this jury that you stabbed Larry.
Oh, wrong brother.
Which is it? Is it both?
They both.
Yeah, his
Could you
remorseful,
repeat that last
or what I
sentence?
thought
No, they
might
both.
look like remorse, is now gone from his face. Granted,
Let me go
we're
back to
watching
the
it at
purchasing of the
1.25
gun.
times speed.
Today, your testimony was that the gun was bought for the purpose of murdering Christopher Jones. Is that correct?
Yeah.
But yet you told Detective Tonelli when he spoke to you that Jacory had bought the gun for his own personal protection. True?
Probably.
Why do the keyboard people have to be right by the microphone?
You weren't in the Mazda, correct? Your testimony was that you were in a truck that you had stolen, a pickup truck, is that correct? And you were behind the Mazda. Was there anybody in the car with you?
Huh?
And tell the jury again. You had said that who was in the Mazda?
Maurice was driving. Larry the passenger. Rambo behind Maurice and Corey on the other side.
What time of day was it that you guys were driving around?
It was nighttime.
So you couldn't actually see in that car. And you didn't actually know who had the gun at that point, did you? Because you were in the truck behind.
I was in the truck.
And you also testified that the shot came from the blue Mazda, correct? But yet you burned your truck and not the blue Mazda. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Let's go to the next incident, I'll call it, later in May. You said that someone named Q was driving you around. Was he charged with anything, to your knowledge, related to this? You also testified that there were let me back up. I want to stay together with the different dates so that you can stay clear. Before you burned that truck and you were following behind the blue Mazda, someone shot Mr. Jones out of the window of the blue Mazda, correct?
Yeah.
And you told Detective Tonelli that you ran over Christopher Jones in your truck, didn't you?
If he was 15, how come he was
And that
driving?
was really one of the things that you told him every time. I think
mean,
you were consistent. on
permit,
that, is
yeah.
that I ran over.
Well, I suppose they don't
Christopher
really
Jones.
follow the
I
laws.
felt the bump. I'm not driving past him, so I felt the bump.
Sir, where was your mother? Or your dad?
You remember telling the officer during your last interview that you weren't scared of Brice,
Yeah, probably.
but yet you also told the jury that he made you do all of this. Is that correct?
Well,
And you
look
also
at
told
him
this
sitting
jury that
over
even
there
when
with
Brice
his bandaged
supposedly left
head.
you alone, you still didn't leave.
He's
Is that correct?
sure looks like he's trying to intimidate the witness from way
Bryce
over
didn't-
there.
Point a gun at you or anything like that and say, I want you to stab Larry and Maurice. Did that happen? Yes or no? I'm sorry?
No.
Your interview on May 24th, you told detectives with the Louisville Metro Police Department that there were 3 other people at the home on Hyde Avenue. Who were those people?
I don't know.
I'm sorry.
I don't know.
You don't know who they were? There were 3 other people present, is what you're telling this jury, at Hyde Avenue that weren't charged with anything in this case?
No.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
That's correct? But you don't know who they were? You told the police, I think, that there was, let me make sure I get this right. I believe it was a white woman and 2 other black men that were present there. Is that correct? That showed up at one point. Do you remember saying that?
I know 2 black people, 2 black dudes.
You remember, you said, I think you testified also, Mr. Carter, that it was actually Maurice and Jacory who were in an altercation at Hyde Avenue.
That's it.
Brice wasn't in an altercation with anyone. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And in fact, you said that Brice even took the knife away from Jacory at one point. Is that correct?
Let me tell you with Maurice.
He took the knife away from Maurice. You admitted to stealing Maurice's shoes after he died,
Yeah.
correct? And you admitted to stealing Ann Carter's phone? I mean, I'm sorry. You admitted to stealing his phone as well.
Yeah.
Who all do you remember being in the room at Hyde Avenue?
It's me, Corey, Maurice, Larry, Rambo, Tyra.
And you had told the police that there was also a light-skinned male there. Is that correct?
Probably.
Okay. To your knowledge, was that person ever charged?
No.
How old are Tyrone Coleman and the light-skinned man?
That would have been me.
Were they adults?
Yeah, probably.
So there were at least 4 people over the age of 18. I'll even say over the age of 15 in that room at the time. And nobody stood up to Brice. Nobody tried to stop this
Well,
from
look
happening.
at him.
You didn't try to take him down?
No.
You stabbed your best friend.
I would have just avoided him to begin with.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Mr. Carter, I want to talk to you now. You told the jury that you are living in the custody of the Florida DOC. Is that what you said?
Oh,
And
he's the
what is
one.
DOC?
Department of Corrections.
Department of Corrections.
On a gun,
So, are
weapons
you in-
charge.
Prison right now?
Yeah.
Where are you in prison?
Hamilton County.
Hamilton County, Florida.
Yes, ma'am.
What are you there for?
Burglary.
Burglary.
What else?
Burglaries.
Burglaries.
So he's
More than
already
one.
served his time for this incident, moved to Florida, and is now in prison for a different thing.
Were you also charged with being a convicted felon in possession of a gun? You don't remember that?
They charged me.
Were you accused of violating the terms of your probation for being a convicted felon in possession of a gun?
Yeah.
You were. And so you admitted to
That's what
having
they
a
said
gun,
in opening
correct?
statements.
Down in Florida? Did the court ever have a hearing about whether you had a gun or not?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
And what did the court find? That you did or you didn't?
I didn't.
And what were you being accused of? What kind of gun was it? Do you remember?
Let me approach on.
This is just... I don't even know what to think. Like, I'm almost getting the impression... Oh, let's watch this piece of shit. I'm almost getting the impression, like, with the what was her name? Jessica, the CSI person, and then a couple of the other, like, witnesses. Like, this is just run-of-the-mill, you know, occurrences. And this kid, I'm kind of getting the impression, like, well, that's what you do. You know, go to school, then you drop out of school, then you join a gang, and you go to prison. This is horrifying. Look at this piece of shit. He lost his stupid pocket square. I hope someone crammed it down his throat while he was trying to eat his lunch. Piece of shit.
You said that you pled guilty. Or, I'm sorry, you might not have said. Did you go to trial or you were ultimately convicted?
Oh no, not the goddamn spins. Okay, remind me if I ever do trials not to use the YouTube app. I don't know if it's that. You know, it's like one thing or another. This afternoon, the internet just decided, okay, we're done with you today. Last night, was it last? Yeah, yesterday we did the Duger, four episode documentary, Shiny Happy People. No problem. But then Monday night on the live stream when I was like showing YouTube videos, like the sound was coming through, but the video itself was like all glitch. Oh, come on, people. We're half an hour away from being done. I mean, my OBS, 4 green bars, dropped frames, 0.1%. Just a moment. Yeah, it must be the app. This popped right up. Now I just can't find it. Oh, did they make it private? No. One moment. Okay, I'm gonna just call it a night. If this doesn't come up. I'm tired. Today, over 20 minutes. Yeah, it should be right here. Now I'm going to see. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. All right, I give up. So we'll have to watch the second half of that. All right, I think what I'm going to do is I'll set up a live stream for tomorrow. The trials that I've covered in the past, this has been an all-day excursion. The trials I've covered in the past, I usually start them on like a 3-hour delay. So this starts at 8:30 my time, so 11:30, 12-ish my time. I'll set up a live stream for this. Meanwhile, a couple people that popped in earlier, Jamie, Broken Baker, I'll call this, who's the other one? This, I can't remember. I'm old and I'm tired. This Way Up, I think. They had said that, because I had mentioned this morning that I was gonna watch the trial while I was putting together what to do for Crime Spies. Road to 500, day 3. And I was actually surprised. Publicly Buzzed looks like he did day 1 last night. Well, I'm old and I get up at dark 30 and I get tired early. So I thought, well, phooey. I'm trying to build my YouTube channel up to 500 before Christmas, which at this point, I don't think it's ever going to happen, let alone before Christmas. But we'll see. So I thought, well, phooey, I guess I'll do that. And then a couple of those people that popped in said that there was a few people that did pick up the trial today. So they must have kind of had the same thing, like, oh, I'm just going to watch someone else live stream it all day long. And then really couldn't find anyone that was live streaming during the day. I like to watch stuff during the day. I don't want to wait till nighttime. I'm tired then. And then I watch all my politics. So I think I will do that. I'll start it like on a 3-ish hour delay. So 11:30 Central Standard Time, 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, like around there. And hopefully some people will pop in from, like the Broken Baker and the Jamie and, that crowd, MLS, Making Law Simple. I forget his real name. I'm so sorry. But maybe that crew, there's somebody in that crew that'll pick up this trial, because this is really a long day. I'm not gonna lie to you. My hat, it looks like my hat is done. I just have to finish this row and then put on the reverse single crochet, and then it'll be ready to go. And we're right in the front. And it matches what I made yesterday. I'm never, ever, ever going to use this stitch again because it takes forever. This is a half double, and I didn't think it would take this long, but it kind of did. and I'm not sure I love the look. Some of the other ones I've made, this is like a double crochet, but it's different yarn. Doesn't matter. I'm too tired. So anyway, so for now, that's the end of day 3. Road to 500, Crime Spies. Oh, Poppy might come and say goodnight. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining me. It was a hair disjointed, I suppose. Oops. And I think you're getting the outro. So I will see you later, everyone. Have a wonderful day.